W239BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills OTA practice sessions began today. Players took the field for day one of what will be 10 practice sessions as we are now in phase 3 of the offseason program.
Mike Danger.
Dad run with a baton. Is Gene running the canal with the baton? What's he training for?
That works for me.
Gene Battaglia.
Mike Danger, have you ever been arrested?
Never. No, not even close.
No.
The Nuggets wasted a 20-point third-quarter lead, bowed out to the T-Wolves in their Game 7 in Denver.
Indiana Pacers advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals. They beat the Knicks 130-109 in Game 7 in New York.
Scottie Scheffler getting arrested before choking Sunday at the PGA Championship.
Schauffele getting the drop and winning his first major title.
The Canucks host the Oilers in Game 7.
He said he ran into Lou Graham at Wegmans. What's more Rochester than running into Lou Graham and Wegmans? Garbage plate.
Hot dogs from heaven.
Don't quit your sports job.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
And welcome to Rochester's only daily sports talk show. You are in the Sports Bar. It's going to sound a little different today. It's Battaglia here. Danger is at one of those Monday charity golf events. I don't think you could have picked a nicer day. Like, the thing about our building is that they turn the AC up, and I didn't realize how much beautiful day it was until I walked outside. I'm like, why do I have this heavy shirt on? So joining us today on the show is Tim Schneider, who we've heard. How many years now you've been with us?
Almost 13.
Wow.
13, 2011.
13. How you feeling, bud?
All right.
You're all right. You're
Mentally, I'm fine. Physically, I'm broken. But we'll get through it.
No, that's called age. That's really what it's called.
I think so.
We got a great show lined up here today. Let's get you set up here. As coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we welcome back in our friend. He's the host of the Tee to Green Show, which you hear Saturdays on WGR, free inside the Odyssey app. Brian Koziel, as we look back to Valhalla and kind of look forward to the U.S. Open. I'll just ask you the question here, Tim, because, what will people remember from this major? Is it going to be Schauffele getting his first W? Is it going to be, these ridiculously low scores? No, it's going to be when the world's number one got arrested.
That was the highlight of the weekend for me. I mean, Schauffele setting that record is impressive, but nobody's going to remember where he did it or when he did it. But the Scheffler thing we'll all remember when it happened.
Yeah, the Scheffler thing. I think the Scheffler thing, it's one of those stories you'll remember whether you were listening to our station or you were looking at your phone or whatever it is. Wait, what is this story? I remember just driving around listening and I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I saw a meme of the Tiger Woods mugshot thing and then Scheffler's mugshot. And I was like, what are we doing here? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then I found it. I saw the meme before the actual story, so I was really confused.
Well, you and I keep way different hours. I'm just going to guess. Probably you're up. Are you in bed before or after midnight most nights?
I don't think I've gone to sleep before midnight without being sick in 20 years.
Okay. There you go. Yeah. And it has to be something rare for me to be up past midnight. And I'm guessing, when was the last time you were up? With the exception of when you're doing the break room.
Right.
At 6 a.m. Yeah, see, that's...
No idea.
That's the difference.
School. High school.
I went out for the dad run on Friday, and then I get back in my car, and I'm like, what are they talking about? It's 8 o'clock, and what? Rainy? Arrested? What... Anyhow, we'll talk to our friend Brian Koziel, the host of Tee to Green. I don't think Valhalla did itself any favors, and I feel like... Here in Rochester, we're in competition, are we not? We want that event back at Oak Hill. But it's, PGA does this on their own timeline. Oak Hill, the course itself, still holds up. It's still great. The town did itself proud here in Rochester. I want to ask Brian, how does the PGA look when you're having scores of 21 under winning the tournament? It's an interesting balance, right? Because when it comes to the U.S. Open, the USGA, they do it completely different. To the other direction. I don't like watching golfers get embarrassed. I don't. As I'm talking with my hands, I knock over the phone. perfect time to announce the phone number at 866-4326. If you're watching that on the YouTube feed, you caught that. Stop talking with your hands. Anyhow, like the low scores there, I don't know if that's something that is really reflective of a major course.
Yeah, last year people were complaining about how easy Oak Hill was because the scores were more outrageous than usual, and then this rolls around, and that's a whole nother realm. So I think it puts Oak Hill back in the mix, and
yeah,
I don't know if it boots Valhalla, but Oak Hill's in conversation now if that's how the scores are going to be moving forward.
Well, Valhalla was in the every 10 years rotation just like Oak Hill. So back in 2003 and back in 2004, you had this Valhalla coming right after Oak Hill. So, look, the honest answer is, and this is a question we don't know, what's the bottom line? Like, how many, finger quote, chalets were sold at Oak Hill for how much? Like, the PGA is in this to make money. And as much as they want to say, hey, we're going to the best courses and we're spotlight, they're going to go to where the money is.
Right.
And I still think that, hey, we're perfect weekend destination for anybody downstate, and it's a great course and all this. We'll see. Brian Koziel in the 4 o'clock hour. We will talk to Mookie Hawkins. We haven't had him on in a minute. WFO Buffalo. We'll talk about the Buffalo Bills. As tomorrow, we'll hear from head coach Sean McDermott and get his thoughts here on this. I don't even know how you would phrase or how you would describe this wide receiver battle. It's just this schmozzle. There's just like big pile of what is going to come out of this. And you're hoping one of these guys pops up and resurrects his career. I mean, that's the hope, right? And I think a lot of people right now, if you had to handicap it, well, certainly the second-round pick feels like the first-round pick, but he made him a second-round pick, and Keon Coleman's on the team. Certainly Khalil Shakir is on the team. Curtis Samuel, I think because of his skill set, is on the team. And then 4, 5, 6, I don't know. Justin Shorter is going to be the name that everybody's kind of high on, but he hasn't even done it in one regular season game yet. So maybe we tap the brakes on that. Marquez Valdez-Scantling feels like, of all the veterans, maybe the finger quote clubhouse leader here. But maybe one of these other guys brings you something that you really need in terms of returnability, like a KJ Hamler. Maybe it's one of these guys that you would put in the Fred Jackson category. Fred Jackson was a running back. No, here's the analogy. Like Fred Jackson, before he became Fred Jackson, year after year, he'd be at camp and then on the practice squad, and then he got a little taste. Then all of a sudden, he's your running back. And then all of a sudden, in 2009, he led the NFL in all-purpose yards. So could that guy be a Shavers or somebody like that? That's what's going to make this camp fun. We're a little over 2 months away from the first practice at St. John Fisher University. Got some thoughts on the Bills here from the betting angle. That'll be coming up. Something interesting that I think should give you Bills fans a little bit of hope. Again, it is the season of hope. Again, we have time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Danger is off today. You can reach us on Elon's Twitter. Our handle, The Fan Rochester. Tim, I was right on one of those NBA series, and I was dead wrong on the other. The one I was dead wrong on was the wrong. Everybody was wrong. I haven't seen that much flip-flopping in one series between Minnesota and Denver, which tells you that was a great series. And how many people actually turned it off last night? Some of us,
right,
Tim, can't stay up, that late. So Denver's up by 20. They're on their home court. That's as bad a loss in the NBA as you can imagine. When you position that to, okay, I was totally wrong on that, and I totally flip-flopping on that. Maybe because I follow the Knicks. I knew exactly how that was going to play out. I said right in Game 5, the Knicks will win tonight, but that doesn't mean they're winning the series. And sure enough, I just didn't know that Indiana or any team could shoot 70+% in a half. That was ridiculous.
That was insane. It wasn't even the Knicks' fault, I don't think. They didn't play poor defensively. They just couldn't stop a shot. They could not get a stop. They were at 80% for the first 17 minutes of that game. It's insane.
Well, and part of that, too, is hey, you're worn down. That's where it's going to show up on that side of the floor. You're not getting back. Just some dumb turnovers by the Knicks in particular in the second half, just careless with the ball, and they were worn out. But the thing that's funny, Tim, is that you and I, how many years have we been doing Fisher basketball? Or you're watching,
a while.
Yeah, or you're watching high school basketball. You're watching CYO. Whatever the shooting percentage is, you get to the half. Oh my gosh, we're down by 15. But then you look, other team shooting 60%. Let's tighten that up.
Right.
It's predictable. It's very predictable at those levels when a team is going to get back into it. NBA, not so much. And, it tightened up a little bit for the Knicks. Yeah, it ended up being 60%. I don't know how many games you're going to win in this league when you're allowing 60% from the floor.
Yeah, that was an impressive showing from Indiana, and that stunned me. You're a Knicks fan, so it might be the pessimism of being a New York fan, but I thought New York was going to run away with that series. And then once it became a series, I still thought that if it goes 7, they win at home, and they got the doors blown off of them.
I hate to say it's a good job of coaching by Carlisle. You go back to the beginning of this series where he's moaning about some of the calls.
Yeah.
Well, he's just setting himself up and just trying to whip everybody into a lather back in Indianapolis, and they held serve. That's all they needed to do. So, and the only time you had a road team win, it cost you the series there. So for the Knicks, what do they do this offseason? I'm just going on the record. Don't go crazy here. If they go and they get a Kevin Durant or Paul George or somebody like, no, I'm not interested. I'd be more interested in, and I don't know the answer to this, but who might be available that would actually be physical, grab some rebounds, maybe somebody from this. You got to be very careful here who you bring in. I don't think the old Nick way, the James Dolan way is let's go in and bring in the superstar, and I don't want that to happen, not in any sense of the word.
No, that's failed time and time again for at least the last 25 years. So I think that they need to change course in regards to what their scheme is. Manageralistically, like what to do with their roster moving forward is probably not bring in a superstar, but bring in a role player that can complement Jalen Brunson, who just became a superstar.
Yeah, that's so we get the Celtics and we get the Pacers, and the Celtics are this big favorite. Like I've seen it like plus 900. It's like wow, some of that right now that money it's just. Yeah, everybody's in on Boston, basically, not Indiana. Maybe there's some value for Indiana. We'll talk Wednesday to PJ Glasser, your host for BetQL, as that series will actually start tomorrow night. So we've got to wait for a couple days here for the Western Conference to kind of begin. And is it wrong for me to say I really don't care one way or another if Dallas or Minnesota? Like, whoever gets past, we're coordinating. Oh, my gosh, finally Luka did it. Or, hey, my goodness.
Yeah, that'll be a fun series, but I don't really have any interest in the series. Like, I grew up a Mavs fan because of Dirk Nowitzki, but I don't really care about, like, the NBA in regards to, like, fandom. So, like, I'll watch the series because it's the playoffs, but I don't have a side on it.
Well, you float in. I think you were that generation that maybe you float in and out because don't tell me you weren't a Cavs fan.
Oh, no, both.
LeBron.
And that's the thing. If I've got two favorite teams, I really don't care about either of them kind of thing. Like, I am diehard Browns, diehard Guardians, diehard Sabres, and then, okay, go Mavs and go Cavs.
You know who the Guardians are playing tonight.
I do, yes.
Yes, so let's go Mets.
Fine. I know a guy on that team. He's fine. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he should. Tim Schneider does a lot of work outside of the building. You get to know some of these athletes. Again, time for your calls at 866-4326, 866-4FA. And tonight we do have a Game 7 here. And I think most of the sports world, just for our own entertainment, like you and I, we're not Oiler fans, we're not Canuck fans, we're just fans of the sport.
Yeah.
And Edmonton, when we talked to Dennis Bernstein in the fourth period, the problem with Edmonton, and he hit it right in the head, the top heavy. Like they have the one line, and they just have some horrific goaltending. And I'm going to be watching this tonight, Tim, just with my hands up to my face, looking through my fingers, because Skinner's getting the call once again for Edmonton in goal. It's in Vancouver for the sport, what the sport really needs. Can you imagine if you have Rangers against Connor McDavid? That would be fantastic. I don't see Edmonton getting by Vancouver tonight. And even if they did, I think Dallas's defense is just so buttoned up that there's no way. I don't think Dallas took apart Colorado like it was nothing. I think Colorado was like going to be the cream of the crop out west. So to me, the road for Edmonton tonight, even they get by, it's kind of like the Knicks. Like, okay, if they somehow get by Indiana, I hate to admit this because so many Celtic fans, my father and Claude, it was going to be ugly. Right. I thought Boston, maybe it ends in 6, more likely 5. God forbid a sweep. But to me, if Edmonton does get it done tonight, I don't think they get by Dallas.
Yeah, even if they do get by, like you said, there's still work to do. And even if they get by Dallas to win the whole thing, there's still work to do because they've got to face either New York or Florida. And I don't know if they're better than either of those teams just because Stuart Skinner is so much worse than the goalies left in the playoffs.
How could you get that wrong? Now, goaltender is not like quarterback in the NFL, meaning – hey, you can have an average goaltender, and the average goaltender can bring you places. Case in point, Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington was an AHL goaltender who got hot, and all of a sudden the Blues are hoisting the cup. Sometimes that'll happen. But to not really have a choice beyond Skinner, you have to fill up that pipeline. It brings me back to Buffalo here because I think – Sabre fans, by the time September comes around, hey, we're optimistic, UPL, and there's Devin Levi. But then what else is coming up here? Like, you'd be well served to draft another goaltender here. And even though that goaltender may be going to college or maybe a couple years away, time to fill up the pipeline because who's going to be the goaltender for the Rochester Americans this year? That kind of feels like bringing back somebody like a Malcolm Subban. I don't know what the plan is going to be next season.
There are some prospects that are not highly regarded, but in the mix. But like you said, Levi is probably up in Buffalo. I don't know if they would want to do that. Maybe go the route that Calgary does with their top prospect, who's been in the minors for what I think is 2 years too long. He just came up at the end of this season. He'll probably be up now. But Levi in Rochester for another year, if UPL is the guy in Buffalo, get them both 60 games and let them ride.
I don't know if they're going to be that patient, though. Honestly, like bringing in like another veteran, like your Carter Huttons of the world. No, that's not. No, you're kind of done with it. I think it's going to be UPL getting 60%, maybe 40%. And can you sign? Who would be like the best goaltender you could sign in the American League, but you sign him like a 2-way deal?
Well, they've had Tokarski in Buffalo for years.
Right. So he's back.
He's older, but he's still a solid AHL goalie. If all we're looking for is a solid AHL goalie, you can find those anywhere. But as far as Buffalo is concerned, pipeline-wise, they need to restock that because for a number of years, they had people in the pipeline, starting with Allmark, going to UPL, and then Levi now. But after Levi, I think they've just atoned him as the future, and they've kind of left the cupboard bare because of that.
Yeah. What's going on in the Amerks coaching search?
Nobody knows.
Yeah. Look, and that's fine. That's their business. They can conduct their coaching search the only way they want. And it's not really a Buffalo/Amerks thing. I think it's a hockey thing. What we're accustomed to, what we like as sports fans. Like the way you see it in the NFL. But it wasn't because the NFL wanted to connect to you, the sports fan. The NFL didn't want any lawsuits. And the NFL wanted just to be as transparent as possible when it can't come to the Rooney Rule. And here's who we're interviewing today. Like you hear about it all the time when coaches are interviewing in the NFL, even down to the coordinators. Hockey seems to be decades behind on this. And I was talking with somebody offline, like, well, you didn't want to get, if another team catches wind of this, you don't really want, you should be like the further, if you identified your guy, well, then go get him pending, a few more interviews. Now, the only thing we can tell you is that Prospel and Pace are going to be, the two assistants here are going to be given interviews. I have heard this. I haven't confirmed it, but I feel like we're going to drop this into the speculative bucket that Adam Mayer is interviewing.
Makes sense.
He is the player development coach. He was a former assistant for the Amerks. And if I had to pick right now, just what did Seth Appert always kind of stress? What does Kevin Adams always stress? Can you get somebody who knows the organization that can work with Seth and to me, Mayer, if he wants it, I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. I know that some people may disagree, but I'm just kind of putting that out there.
I don't disagree with that, but the first name that came to mind for me was Michael Pekka, who was an assistant a year ago, took an assistant job at the NHL level. I think moving back down as a head coach in the AHL probably gets him back in the NHL quicker as far as a head coaching job goes. I would make that move if I were Pekka, given the opportunity.
I would listen to that, but how many times do you have somebody of that? Michael Pekka is a name. That's a name, and he is running one of the best power plays. And why would he come back to the AHL? Let's say the Rangers get knocked out by the Panthers. Totally possible, right? That's a pretty good run, getting your team to the cup, to the conference final. When they get to the cup final, forget it. Like, I think Michael Pekka, Tim, would actually be up for some NHL jobs.
This is possible too.
Yeah, it's possible.
But if the Amherst were to reach out, or the Sabres would reach out to have him come back to where he was just a year ago at the head level rather than assistant level, I would at least consider it if I'm Michael Pekka. Of course, unless the NHL is also come calling.
Well, to your point, though, if we get back to beyond Memorial Day, let's say, and we come back and, hey, the Amherst still don't have a coach. What's going on? Okay, then we can kind of do some things like, okay, maybe they're looking to talk to some people that are still alive here, things I don't want, like I'm not interested in some other AHL's team assistant.
No, not at all. No, me either. No. It feels like it has to be somebody previously attached to the organization, whether it be an assistant coach or somebody who's a former player. Throwing darts here, but like Chris Taylor coming back again, not out of the realm of possibility.
Well, he worked for Lindy. Now the thing is, he's fired by Kevin Adams. So look, Taylor's. The bias here being that I think the world of him, and I think he and his family, great assets to Rochester, and he'd fit right in. When I put that out there on social media, I didn't realize how many Amherst fans were like, oh, look at the playoff record. Look. Okay, well, sure. Did you not forget that you weren't even in the postseason previous to Tails? Like, the organization where it's at right now, sure, Seth Thappert left it a better place than he got it 4 years ago, but Chris Taylor left it a better place when he got it from, anybody even remember the guy's name?
I don't.
Dan Lambert. Yeah, that's a trivia question. Right. It was there and gone. So we got Mookie Hawkins. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football, and we have time for your calls later in the show. You can also reach to us on X. The Fan Rochester is our handle. Danger's out today, along with Tim Schneider. My name is Gene Battaglia. It's a sports bar on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Just one game tonight in the postseason for the NBA and NHL. It's on the ice in Vancouver, where the Oilers and Canucks tied at 3 games each. Rick Tocchet is the head coach of Vancouver.
A lot of guys are, very confident, joking around. It's a loose group. But also there's some guys that, you can tell that, that's why it's important that you get to them, talk to them, and make them understand. It's, you've done it all year, and just, replay those good things in your head. That's really what it comes down to, visualization.
Bills OTAs beginning this week. We will hear from head coach Sean McDermott tomorrow. Padres defeating the Braves today 6-5. There's one other game in progress as the White Sox have taken a 1-0 lead up in Toronto. Mets are in Cleveland tonight. Gene Battaglia in the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Adam Schefter reporting that, there's that time of year again where, who's at OTAs, and Justin Jefferson not going to OTA today for the Minnesota Vikings, and that's going to be, that's one of those storylines where, all right, wow, how time flies, doesn't it? It seems just like yesterday we had the Diggs trade for the first-round pick, and the first-round pick ends up being Justin Jefferson, and then you realize, oh, my gosh, that was 4 years ago. So Justin Jefferson now going into his 5th-year option without a deal, so I'm sure he wants that all kind of buttoned up. And now, of course, Stephon Diggs down in Houston trying to locate Mookie Hawkins. If somebody knows Mookie, I think he has his phone off, so we will kind of continue on here in the sports bar. This opens up time for you at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. You can write to me. I'm at Gene Battaglia. And Tim Schneider, who makes no sense at all, is at Womp Fump.
Yeah.
Dan writing to me. So Cousin Tim is working out with you today. I bet I could help fill in here and there since we got the last name. I don't think you're related to Dan, and I don't think that would qualify him, right?
No relation, but same last name, yeah.
But thanks for writing in, Dan. Appreciate that. To the Bills, and I mentioned this last segment, what from the betting world will get you excited about the Buffalo Bills? No surprise. Tim, pop quiz. Give me the 2 teams in the NFL right now that have the most public bets to advance to the Super Bowl in 2025. So next season, next February, one from the AFC, one from the NFC. Who is going to be the matchup according to the most bets placed for futures right now?
Let's say the Chiefs and the Eagles.
You got one of the two right. It's the Chiefs and the Lions.
Lions?
Lions. Because,
right.
And a lot of this, too, is fans are excited, okay? You always hear about squares versus sharps. And the squares right now, and look, they could be one and the same, right? It's hard to argue against the Chiefs, okay? They're going to be right in the mix. If everyone's healthy once again, yes, it's a long season, blah, blah, blah. But the Chiefs, hard to kind of argue against. Now, from the NFC, look, Detroit was great last year, and they got within one game. But are we ready to say that they should be the betting favorite from the NFC? Because I think the Niners could certainly get back. You mentioned Philadelphia, and they bring in Vic Fangio, and that was, to me, their big problem last year. I didn't recognize that Philadelphia defense, not whatsoever. So to me, you saying the Eagles, that would make sense that they could certainly get back to the Super Bowl. There are 3 teams right now, though. There's 2 different ways 2 different metrics. One is just the number of bets. And the number of bets right now are by the public. You and I throwing $20 here or there. The other metric is the dollars, okay?
Right.
So which, in terms of the percentage of bets placed, there are only 3 teams right now where you see, noticeable difference between the dollars and the actual bets going in. One of them being the Niners. And maybe that's because there's just so much money going on Detroit with Detroit fans that we all kind of look, Niners been there, done that. if the Niners and Chiefs got back to the Super Bowl, that almost might have like a Bills-Cowboys thing. I'm like, oh no, we're doing this again kind of thing, But the Niners certainly with that defense, and yes, they've taken a few hits. I think they'd be just fine. Here's another one that I find surprising because I thought for sure last year they get in, they finished on a heater, and the quarterback actually may be good. That would be the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers in that division, that could also be that right now they're not the favorite to win the division, but if they can get into the postseason, could Jordan Love and the Packers make some noise? That would certainly be the other one. The third being the Buffalo Bills, where right now only 4% of the actual number of bets being placed are on Buffalo to win the Super Bowl. Or make the Super Bowl. 6% of the dollars, however. So we're not talking like a big percentage, but more sharp money is going on Buffalo than is going on just the squares there, just the actual tickets. And to me, it's what would be the reasons why you wouldn't feel optimistic about the Buffalo Bills?
Wouldn't or would?
Would not.
They haven't gotten it done, and they just lost Stephon Diggs.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough. Haven't gotten it done. And I would say that in comparison to the AFC East, and there's so much money going in on the Jets, too. We could pull all that up.
Yeah, there are.
It's like the Jets schedule it's kind of a joke, and we'll get to the Jets here in a second. But the Diggs question, and I'm going to go back, and I hate to draw an analogy, Buffalo to Kansas City, but this is some of the chatter from the Chiefs 2 years ago, and I fell into that trap. Oh, my gosh. How are they going to live without Tyreek Hill? Who is Patrick Mahomes going to throw the ball to? And we look at this all wrong here. Sure, having Diggs, you're not as good a team without Diggs, but is Josh Allen ready to roll up his sleeves and work with some of these other younger players? I think, Tim, I'm presenting the optimistic view, certainly, that when it comes to Allen in that room, he's the voice now. You don't have to bend a knee to Diggs. You don't have to defer to Diggs. You don't have to worry about Diggs and his targets. You know where Josh Allen can throw the ball to? He's Josh Allen. Whoever he damn well pleases, he can throw the ball to. So I'm presenting you the optimistic view that if you kind of spread it around a little bit, maybe it's not such a bad thing. And then on top of that, too, name me like the, without question, number one wide receiver in terms of like a top 5 receiver in the league that actually ends up winning the Super Bowl. You have to have multiple targets. This always happens. Like you can go back, Marvin Harrison in the Colts the 1 year. Okay, they're certainly it's been done, but I think in this day and age that you just want to make sure that the ball, you don't know where it's going to be going.
Well, you'd count Tyreek Hill as a top 5 receiver, wouldn't you? When he won a few years ago with, Kelsey was there too, so there were multiple weapons, but Tyreek Hill was probably top 5 at that point.
Right. I guess that's my point, is that you had kind of divvied it up. Yeah. Where was the split in Buffalo last year? Now you could say, well, if you had Diggs and Kincaid and you're rising up to Kincaid, that's fine. I will listen to that. So I just go back to, you look at the division. Are you still going to win that division? Okay, then you're in the party and you're going to get a home game, and you should be at minimum to the same spot you were each of the last 2 years, meaning here we are once again in the divisional round at home.
Would you rather, changing gears a little bit here, would you rather win the division 20 years in a row, make the Super Bowl a couple times and lose, or would you rather win one Super Bowl and then not make the playoffs for 20 straight years?
Oh, come on, Tim. That's like, no, I mean, like, we've been there, done that for how many years? Like, we paid our penance there the 17 years. That's the way I kind of look at it in Western New York, and that is kind of a version of the old sports talk. Hey, Bills went to 4. Would you have traded all in for 1?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But I think being in the mix every single year is also, it puts you in the chance to win one, though. Yeah. I'd rather be in the mix 20 years in a row than just ignored.
No, hell no. Like, you want to just, you know, the only thing I can draw on it from is like as a sports fan. And you're cash Cavs fan. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
When the Orange won in 03. It's like, I'm bracing for the worst. And Kansas is rallying in the final seconds and like, oh my gosh, they did it.
They did.
They did it. And because Jim Boeheim then stayed for another 20 years. See, that's the analogy, and that's where I would prove it wrong. Is like that's the one. Well, that's where you would prove me wrong because hey, you did the one, and what's always the knock on Boeheim? Hey, you only got one. You should have gotten more.
And those vacated wins and stuff, but that's neither here nor there.
That's neither here nor there. Correct. I guess we're not getting Mookie today. That's fine. We've got Brian Koziel coming up later. If you're just tuning in, like, oh, this sounds a little different here today. What is this? Tim Schneider, who you hear on many different platforms, was like Mr. Fill-In today.
Yeah, that's me.
That's me. I'm texting him over the weekend. Hey, like, you in for Monday? Oh, yeah. So that's how.
Always in.
Always in. Danger is out golfing here today. One game for the majors. The Padres have now won 11 of their last 17 as they defeat the Braves today, 6-5. So San Diego finally above 500. To me, there's like an underachieving team. It's the Padres, right? That's kind of the way I see it there. Certainly love your comments on the Bills and the NFL for that matter. Back to the Jets here, Tim, because we talked on Friday to Dan Leberfeld from Jets Confidential, and I love Dan because he's going to give you like the different perspective, but where you've heard it like, boy, the NFL, they put the Jets on prime time 6 of the first 11 weeks, which, yes, that's true, but and you are Mr. I don't care what the schedule is, right? That's kind of Have you changed on that?
I looked at the schedule. I'm glad one exists now, but I didn't tune into the show.
Okay, you don't get excited.
No. When it's out, and I'll take a look at it. But I'm not gonna feast over all the options.
Yeah,
just show me when the Browns and Guardians are home at the same time. I can plan a trip out there, and then I'm good with it.
Yeah. I would say that it's important because when you play teams matters so much in this league. And when you initially heard the Jets are going to play at San Francisco on the first Monday night, like, all right, that's good because it always goes so well for Aaron Rodgers when he's playing out in San Francisco over the years. Then you look at the next 4 games, and you look at all these quarterbacks. Okay, the Jets have to play another game on the road at Nashville. Will Levis. Ooh. The Jets come home to play the Patriots. Who's starting at Patriots? Is that still Jacoby Brissett? Do they go to the kid? I don't know. The Patriots are going to be bad this year. Ooh. Bo Nix they get in week 4. I'd assume it's Bo Nix. Like, we're trying to figure out where to Gardner Minshew. Oh, he went to Vegas. So I guess they are going to stick with Bo Nix there. Fantastic. Oh, and then you're going to get McCarthy in Minnesota there. Tim, that sounds like 4-1 to me. And then you get the Bills on Monday Night Football, where you know what the storyline for that is going to be. It's going to be, hey, it's going to be Buffalo and New York, and now ready to kind of have a changing of the guard here in the AFC East, which I would say, fine, that's such a long season. But then after that, you get the Steelers and Russell Wilson, and then you get the Patriots again.
That shapes out to be a pretty decent start of the schedule.
That sounds like 6-2. And then, like that, and again, the Jets are playing like the last place schedule. So, to me, all this money going in on the Jets and everything else, is it different than last year? Because last year, I'm just trying to think back in time, were people ready to punt on the Buffalo Bills, whether it was the Miami Dolphins, whether it was the Jets? I know it sounds comical right now, but there were people that were actually saying, and you can go look this up, that Mac Jones and Bill Belichick could contend for the divisional championship. I guess it's that time of year good one. Like that kind of worked out. But are you buying into the Jets hype? Because where I would say, wow, they added Reddick. That defense was already good. Well, they always give the Buffalo Bills problems. Oh, they really got good skill players. Okay, the offensive line, I'd have to see it to believe it, but you're banking on a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a major injury, and your coaching staff is questionable at best. What, third best in the division there? And it's Nathaniel Hackett, who, why does he have a job? Because he's Aaron Rodgers' buddy. Yeah. That's why.
I mean, if looking at the schedule, you say 6-2, that means that they did their jobs correctly. And if they don't, which they typically underachieve, 6-2 should be the baseline for them. Anything worse than that means they're off to a bad start.
Yeah. It's so that's something to kind of think about. We will have some takes. Well, more Bills talk coming up in a little bit. It is Monday here in the Flower City, a beautiful Monday, right? Boy, it's these are the days we live for. So hopefully you're out driving around having a good time, or maybe you got us on your patio today, wherever you may be. Hopefully crack a window. 585-866-4326. It's the Sports Bar here on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the At home by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
We'll take more of your calls coming up in a little bit. Of course, you get these nice warm days, and you think about summer, and then, boy, before you know it, the Bills will be back at St. John Fisher University. Friend of the show, covers the Buffalo Bills for 96.5 Power out in Buffalo, also WFO. He's the sports director, Mookie Hawkins. How are you today, Mookie?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day outside, so I just work on my tan a little bit.
All right, so are you making plans to come into Rochester, Mookie? That's the big question here for training camp.
Oh, absolutely. I'll definitely be, in Rochester. Training camp's going to be an exciting one. We got a lot of new faces, a lot of competition, so I'm definitely not missing training camp this year.
You look at the wide receiver moves here, and I guess there's no, magic answer, how do you replace Steph Diggs in his production? But Mookie, how do you assess this? Because it just, to me, seems like Brandon Beane and his staff, we're going to just throw a lot of ideas up against the wall here and hope this kind of sticks.
Well, those ideas really not coming from Brandon Beane. Those ideas are being facilitated from the offensive coordinator and Joe Brady, and you see the dynamic. I mean, Bills fans don't expect to see this style of offense that you were used to seeing Stephon Diggs in, all right? That's why you see so many taller receivers, because this is Joe Brady's philosophy. This is what he feels that, what helped his scheme along with, obviously with Josh Allen. Josh Allen is 6'5". You can't keep throwing the Smurfs, right? We need some guys that Josh Allen can easily see down the field, some guys that's his height, 6'3", 6'4" guys that could be easier for Josh to see down the field. So you see the Keon Colemans, you see the Chase Claypools, you see the MVS signing. So a lot of these receivers that you see being brought in are actually taller guys. So you're going to see a definitely different look of offense, a more balanced style attack, and you just got to see how many wide receivers that the Bills are going to keep.
Yeah, maybe falling into this category, and we get asked about him a lot. Justin Shorter at 6'4". I mean, we saw him at Fisher last year, Mookie, but the Bills decided to almost let's take a redshirt year for Justin Shorter. I mean, how would you assess his chances to make that final 53?
Well, chances got to be good in his eyes. I mean, the advantage is if anybody had an idea of what Brady is doing offensively during the offseason, it's definitely Jordan Shorter. You got Shavers as well coming off, the practice squad. And, he participated in rookie minicamp. And obviously he showed like he was a guy that pretty much had tabs on the playbook. And, he stood out as he should in rookie minicamp. But I think Shorter is going to have every opportunity as everyone else. I mean, especially him being a draft pick in the 5th round last year. They're definitely going to give them every opportunity to, get a roster spot. Now, again, will that be 6 or will it be 7? It depends on, what the Bills decide to do with other position groups and how many numbers that they're going to keep, particularly in that O-lineman situation. There's a lot of O-linemen as well. So competition at wide receiver, competition at O-lineman, not sure what that magic number is. It could be 7 this year. It could be 7 wide receivers that make this roster.
Yeah, and then, of course, you have the practice squad where you can stash somebody. There's a lot of younger guys, certainly, that maybe the Bills could lean on. One guy who's coming back, and I'm just wondering, Mookie, if the answer has been here all along. And I look at the way Khalil Shakir finished out last year and the rapport he has with Josh Allen. The fact that, well, he only had 45 targets last year, and if you doubled the targets, and, people have said this is flawed logic, and I would listen to that, but if you double the targets, could you get double the production? If that's the case, then you're talking about a receiver that will be 1,200 yards, which I think we would all sign up for. So, but your thoughts there on Shakir, was that the best we've seen, or could he actually be a number one?
Well, a lot of people was coming in and say, okay, the Bills drafted this wide receiver. Who is he going to replace? Is this going to be Gabe Davis' replacement? It could be Cole Beasley replacement. Again, Khalil Shakir coming out of Boise State could play inside and he can play outside. So is the Stephon Diggs replacement on the outside. You have a lot of interchangeable players within the wide receiver room. You got Curtis Samuel as well, a guy that could blow the top off of defenses running 4.3 speed. Shakur as well at 4.4. But you got to look at the overall scope. His targets last year was basically allowed due to the fact that, Stephon Diggs did demand a double team. Stephon Diggs did demand bracket coverage. So it allowed teams more or less to take the scope off of Shakur. Now that scope is going to be on him now that there is no Stephon Diggs on the roster anymore. So we'll just see what his target production would look like. Obviously, it's going to increase because, hey, you look at the number of targets that's gone. You look at over 200 targets between Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. It's not there anymore. So who's going to fill that role? So you're looking for sure to see that Khalil Shakur is going to get, a handful of those targets that, that Davis and Diggs left out there. Curtis Samuel's going to get a bulk of those, and then expect Dalton Kincaid to get an increase of targets in his production. Keon Coleman, I think that he may be the 1,000-yard guy as a rookie.
Wow.
In double-digit touchdowns, way that I see that they're going to use him as well. Big slot, X on the boundary, and, big catch radius. So you're going to see that athleticism, and, it's definitely going to be some ways to Brady's going to scheme up Khalil running underneath all of that, getting open. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see, how this offense is really going to look with all these new pieces and, Joe Brady with a full year as the offensive coordinator.
Mookie Hawkins, our guest here in the sports bar. From over the weekend, Micah Hyde, Grady does this at his charity softball event. And Mookie, honestly, I thought that would have been the platform, the time, if he was going to make a decision to step away or Sam coming back, and we didn't get either, which that's fine. But the question here being about the safeties, because for the first time here in this generation, we don't know who the two starting safeties are entering the season. Jordan Poyer, and I credit him. You want to play, go play. So the Bills making that decision. Poyer's down in Miami. Hyde is going to take some time, but even so, I don't know if Hyde would be back. So you have another draft choice, a second rounder in Bishop. How would you assess his opportunity? Is it Mike Edwards? Because I look at the safeties and the way Sean McDermott, his defense has always kind of leaned on the back end here, Mookie. So how would you assess what is at the back end there of the Bills' defense here at the safety position?
Right now, on the back end, is very, is the biggest question mark, right? When you see all the holes that the Bills have filled on this roster, they really haven't filled too many positions at that safety spot. Again, Micah Hyde was, still up in the air, right? I even try to get Josh to egg him on, doing that chant with one more year, and he said, yeah, he'll do one more year as far as the softball goes. But I think that Micah Hyde needs to miss football some more before he makes that decision. I think that maybe you will see a Micah Hyde down the line. I'll say probably, mid-season or every week 10. You may see Micah get that itch again and want to come out. Depends on how the Bills are doing, or the Bills are in the hunt for things come week 10. I expect Micah Hyde maybe to show up around that time. But Cole Bishop, here is a guy that I think is 2-1. He gives you that in the box presence, like how a Poyer was, just coming downhill, punching you in the mouth kind of guy that Poyer is, and he also has the ball skills and the instincts of a Micah Hyde. So you kind of got like 2-1, and he's so versatile in that way that you can play him down in the box. You can play him as a big nickel as well to blitz off the edge there. So you got an interchangeable guy. So he's going to have to learn a lot. He's going to have to learn those roles. Mike Edwards, obviously two-time Super Bowl champion with Tampa Bay and Kansas City. So he brings some intel and some experience as well. And then you got Taylor Rapp, who was in the system last year. Is it enough to get things by? I think the Bills' front seven will kind of shoulder the load a little bit, but maybe if this happens where Hyde doesn't come in probably till week 10 or something like that, he get that itch again, maybe the Bills probably would entertain, a Justin Simmons or another safety coming in when June 1st hits around here. Maybe Bills will make that last splash. They do have a couple of spots open on a roster. I'm not sure if they're saving that from a UFL guy or, another guy such as Simmons who is still out there. So we'll see. We'll see. But I'm not worried about the back end being inexperienced because we have a front seven that's very experienced. And as long as they get pressure on the quarterback, hey, anybody should be able to catch interceptions. So, I think that, right now it's okay. It isn't as great as what it was having two all-pro safeties back there, but, it's good enough so far.
Yeah, Mookie Hawkins, our guest here, maybe, and again, June 1st coming up, and you get that credit on the books there for Tre'Davious White. One of their underrated moves, I think, last year for the Buffalo Bills was getting in Leonard Floyd, and that was a June signing, Mookie, and I don't know, with the cap being so tight, if there is that availability, and if so, who that player might be. Floyd now, of course, in San Francisco, but I guess my question here is, well, Floyd's gone. Do the Buffalo Bills have enough at the defensive end position here? Because to me, one of the big questions, I don't know what to expect, Mookie, out of Von Miller this year.
Well, yeah, we can't put a point of emphasis on what Von's going to do. We need to put a point of emphasis on Greg Rousseau, A.J. Epineza. You look at the production that A.J. had. He did go through some little injuries, but he definitely flashed last year, and his role as far as the rotation was kind of limited. So if you up his production, if you up his snaps, maybe you can get a 10-plus sack guy out of AJ, and I believe that you can. With that production, I think it was just too stockpiled off the edge last year. I think that it was a bad deal bringing Von back early because he didn't give you anything. So I'm quite sure the Bills are going to take that and say, okay, he got unscathed with injury, so the knee is completely fine now. So yeah, we're going to, we got this rookie in Javon Solomon that you're going to groom, but hey, the training wheels is off on Greg Rousseau, who's just got his fifth year exercised already in the fourth year, and then again you just extend AJ Epineza. So I would look for those two guys to come off that edge. More or less. And both of those guys could easily be 10-sack year guys. And then if we get, anywhere close to 10 with Von Miller, that's saying something. The Bills did finish top 5 dead or alive in sacks last year. I don't predict that projection to fall off. I think it either stays the same or, hey, you may get even more depending on how healthy these guys be up front.
Mookie, last one, it's about the schedule. We got it dropped on us last week, and, hey, Arizona, you figure that's an opponent that the Bills, if they're playing their best football, they should get a W. Well, I'm saying they better get a W because I'm looking at some of the games after that. I mean, certainly the game at Miami, even though the Bills have had success, that's going to be a tough one. I look at that 3-game road stretch there, Baltimore, Houston, the Jets. But all that being said, I don't know if you agree with me or not. I don't think the NFL did the Bills wrong here. I think the schedule, knowing that these opponents were already predetermined, I don't think there's anything egregious about this year's schedule.
No, it's not an egregious. This is that, okay, I kind of like how, they did the Bills again, us as media, we're traveling, we're covering. So it's like, okay, where are we Tuesday? Where are we Monday? But now it's just like, this is a primetime schedule. It's just not just 4, 5, 6 primetime games. This is a primetime schedule. But I like how, they got the night games out of the way early in the season. That way things can get back to normal as far as how the Bills are going to schedule out things, how they're going to practice regularly. And you're going to need that going down the end of, the last stretch of the season. So to get those big games out of the way, to get those primetime night games out of the way, was great, in my eyes. That's just my opinion. And then having the bye week, coming up with Thanksgiving gives those guys some extra rest. So I think that was kind of cool of the NFL to give those guys Thanksgiving off and, the bye week all in the same, token back to back. So, the Bills get some good rest for the home stretch, and I like the schedule. I do believe the Bills will come off 12-5. I think the Bills still will win the division for a 5th straight year, and they will sweep the Fish. They split the Jets. They sweep the fish.
Mookie, tell our audience how they can get more of your content, read more of your work, as we've got mini camp, or not mini camp, correction. We've got OTAs coming up this week.
Yeah, we got OTAs coming up. We get the opportunity tomorrow to speak with Coach and a few players, regarding that. So we'll be up at, OTAs tomorrow to start off that next phase of it. But you can always catch me right here at Power 96.5 FM radio on 1080 AM on your AM dial as well. You can also catch me on Twitter at WUFO Sports, and that's WUFO Sports, all day, every day.
Mookie, looking forward to seeing you out in Rochester coming up in July. Thanks for your time today.
Anytime, my guys. Take care.
Thanks, Mookie. Mookie Hawkins, sports director, WUFO, out in Buffalo. Just a different perspective, and I like that perspective. I'm going to try that on Danger when he comes back tomorrow. They're moving away from separation, moving more to size. So if we're looking at it through that parameter, like Josh Allen, he doesn't need to throw you open. Like, he's going to throw it, but can you muscle off the defender? Can you be more physical? Can there be more yards after the catch? Like, credit Diggs, because he would have that separability. But what happened when Diggs caught the ball more often than not? I'm going to go down.
Yep.
It's a first down, which that's fine. Self-preservation, that's fine. It was a big component of the offense. But like, in terms of Diggs run after catch, I think he had 2 plays last year, and both of them, like, you're like, whoa, I'm not the one sideline against Miami kind of sealed the game, in my opinion. And in the loss at Cincinnati, there was one with just a missed tackle, and then he kind of took off for an extra 20 yards. So, Mookie Hawkins, appreciate his time. We'll talk to Brian Koziol next hour. Actually, it is this hour. Team, this is what happens. When I get this, like, I'm not even paying attention. It's yak, 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 yak. I'm making up my own rules as we go. Danger's out today. Tim Schneider is here, and this is the Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the inside scoop from experts. AUDACY. Odyssey.
I'm Tom Wall's team member Ollie. The bakers at DePaulo Bakery actually tie a knot into every hard roll, and that's why they're called twists. We could buy a cheaper mass-produced roll to put our cheeseburgers on, but we won't. We don't cut corners. Tom Walls.
Tom Walls. Receive free gutters with your new roof at Exceptional Exteriors, a locally owned family business that stands by their work, has hundreds of 5-star reviews, and offers 0% financing. Need a new roof? Get the gutters for free. Visit ExceptionalExteriorsInc.com.
Hi, this is Bob Duffy, president of the Rochester Chamber of Commerce. I would like to share a serious message. It's about a problem that costs New Yorkers $920 per year. The problem is insurance fraud, and it's just like a tax. Here's an example. Employees will file inflated or fake workers' comp claims. That's insurance fraud. Don't commit it. If you see it happening, report it. Fraud is a crime you pay for. Visit fraudny.com for more information.
We are proud to serve our country, to serve our local communities, to wear the uniform, to be a soldier, to serve abroad when and where duty calls. We are ready to stand with our brothers and sisters to defend, to serve, to fight. We're always ready. We're always there. We are the New York Army National Guard.
Sponsored by the New York Army National Guard.
Attention! If you have Medicaid and live in New York and need assistance with daily living, you can receive a 100% free service and get help in the comfort of your own home by a loved one. Call Freedom Care now so you can receive daily help preparing meals, bathing, doing laundry, receiving transportation, and more. All done by a family member or friend that gets paid to be your caregiver. You get to decide who provides your care, and your caregiver gets paid instantly after their shift. It's all funded by Medicaid, so it's 100% free to you. Call in the next 10 minutes to see if you qualify. The Freedom Care family will explain the process, making it stress-free for patients and caregivers. Freedom Care is #1 in New York and has received over 4,000 5-star reviews.
And W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
NBA playoffs off tonight, but we do get a Game 7 in the NHL. The Oilers and Canucks as tied at 3 games each. Bills OTAs beginning today. Steve Tasker today on One Bills Live on what to look for.
This is real football practice with installations, with terminologies, with schemes and concepts. This is high-level stuff now, and that's big.
We will hear from head coach Sean McDermott and players. They will be talking to reporters tomorrow. We'll have that for you here on the Sports Bar. One final from the baseball today as the Padres get it done over the Braves 6-5. San Diego now above 500 on the season. The Jays have now gone up top of the White Sox 4-2. They're in the 5th. Yankees tonight host Seattle. New York at 33-15 on the season. The Mets playing down in Cleveland. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills OTA practice sessions began today. Players took the field for day 1 of what will be 10 practice sessions as we are now in phase 3 of the offseason program.
Mike Danger.
Dad run with a baton. Is Gene running the canal with the baton? What's he training for?
That works for me.
Gene Battaglia.
Mike Danger, have you ever been arrested?
Never. No, not even close.
No.
The Nuggets wasted a 20-point third-quarter lead, bowed out to the T-Wolves in their Game 7 in Denver.
Indiana Pacers advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. They beat the Knicks 130-109 in Game 7 in New York.
Scottie Scheffler getting arrested before choking Sunday at the PGA Championship.
Schauffele getting the drop and winning his first major title.
The Canucks host the Oilers in Game 7.
He said he ran into Lou Graham at Wegmans. What's more Rochester than running into Lou Graham and Wegmans?
Garbage plate.
Hot dogs from heaven.
Don't quit your sports job.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan. Rochester.
Hi, stepping into hour 2. Welcome back here to the Sports Bar. It's Battaglia with Schneider today. Danger is out golfing. One of those charity golf events that you get asked to MC and then maybe they'll let you on. So I'm hoping that he got on today. And you asked me where was it, and shows what a good friend I am. I'm like, I don't know.
Wherever he is, I'm jealous, but happy to be here.
Yeah, but it's okay. This is what we love to do, is talk sports with you. You brought in, now we have up in our studio an actual Calder Cup champion. I took down the divisional flag. That feels right.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to find room for both of them, but I was given a tour of a bar, and that was upstairs in the offices, and I was gifted it. So that's older than I am.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. People know you from your production with the Rochester Americans. Season kind of ending a little short here. We've got our friend Brian Koziel. He's your host of Tee to Green. Also hear him on the Sabres broadcast as your and intermission and post game host. And what's kind of interesting, like I was hoping we would get kind of more info nuggets as far as who are the Amerks talking to, but kind of reminded, no, this is not how business is done in the National Hockey League. We're not going to be hearing that. So, but if we do hear anything, we'll certainly pass it along to you, because I think it would benefit everybody if the Bills were actually kind of in the, with the Amerks in the news cycle, because this is how the Bills, other teams in the NFL, you're always kind of learning who they're talking to. Not only a head coach, but a coordinator or sometimes other positions. So, hockey, not quite at that point yet. Some takes here. Tim, I have a take here.
Sure.
And we've lamented here in the Sports Bar how all-star games, they're kind of lame. Actually, I just kind of say it. They suck.
For the most part,
For the most part, it's like it's background noise. I do not care. Athletes are there to make their appearance. They barely play. We're talking about no defense in the NBA. Starters playing 2 innings max in baseball. Zero physicality in football. In hockey, that doesn't even seem like the same sports, right? They're just out there just kind of, gliding around. Then we get to NASCAR last night. Now, if you didn't know that there was a NASCAR All-Star race last night, neither did I, so don't feel bad. But did you see this? We had a fight. Ricky Stenhouse throwing down with Kyle Busch because Busch allegedly cut him off, forced him out of the race. Here's the question, Tim, I have. What would it actually take to get a fist fight in one of these other All-Star games?
A lot, because they're all there. I don't think any of them actually want to be there. Like, they're there because it's probably a monetary bonus, and like they lose vacation if you really think about it. They don't want to be there.
There was a video, and I should know the Seattle player, but now it's kind of always the, hey, like you see the video when here's the minor leaguer in baseball. Hey, just want to let you know you're called up, and it's emotional.
Yeah.
And we're going to post that. Well, they did some variation of this with the Seattle Kraken, and the coach is like, yeah, what do you got planned for your week off? Well, me and my girlfriend, we're going to go down to San Diego, taking some. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're going to have to go to Toronto. You made the All-Star team. Oh, great. I guess I made the All-Star team. Yeah,
too good at my job.
Yeah,
Dang it.
Yeah, darn it. Yeah, I know. See, I don't want to. It sounds kind of like old-timey, like, oh, I remember when these used to matter. And did they ever really kind of matter?
No, they didn't.
No, I think what killed it all was, hey, here's all these players that you read about that might be good. Like that guy out in San Diego, Dave Winfield, here he is. And you wouldn't ever have the Padres on TV or something like that. Now, you know all these guys.
You have access to everything.
You have access to everything. So there's no mystery about any of these players whatsoever. And when it comes to the competition, the guys just like, it's their vacation. They're not going to really finger quote compete. Baseball did something dumb a few years ago. Remember, they like tried to make it, okay, now it really matters because whoever wins this is going to have the home field advantage. And yeah, so some guy from the Rockies is going to determine.
That's literally what would have happened last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's really, really, really like that to me makes absolutely no sense. We got Brian Koziel coming up here in a little bit. And look, when the day began, it sounded like the charges against Scotty Scheffler were going to be dropped, but apparently now the arraignment's going to move forward. June 3rd is going to be the date. Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg said this morning that the detective, Brian Gills, wasn't wearing a body cam. Okay, that was what we were waiting for, right?
Yep.
Either he wasn't wearing a body cam or somehow we're going to make that body cam footage kind of disappear because we really, as a county and as a city, would love to have the PGA, and we really don't want to make the PGA kind of look bad. I thought by the time Sunday came around, like you would have the charges drop, but as I've been saying all along, Tim, were you there?
Nope.
No, I wasn't there either. So I don't know what happened. So anybody that wants to say, hey, drop the charges, or hey, there's something here you need to prosecute, I don't know. But when I heard the story that the mayor was dropping hints that the charges could get dropped, and now apparently we're going to go through this in June 3rd, maybe he just pleads down to lesser charges at this point. I think it's like, what are we going to remember this PGA for? Like the PGA at Oak Hill, what are we going to remember that for?
Michael Block.
I think so, but Koepka winning, that's another storyline. Like it seemed at the time, hey, maybe these two tours can peacefully coexist. And then it was like, I want to say a week later at the Canadian Open, like, wait a second, they're merging? You're kidding me.
That was right after.
Yeah, that was right after. So that was the last one. So like I look back and it's like, all right, I'm glad that you had a name, somebody with some cachet like Koepka. No offense, it wasn't Michael Block, and a lot of people would have loved the underdog strategy. The only one for Michael Block probably is like anybody who was out there that day tells me just the sound of that ball hitting the pin was just, you knew right away what happened.
A club pro dunking a golf ball, ensuring that he gets to play. He played in the one this weekend. I don't think he made the cut, but like that afforded him a lifetime of opportunity. That's what I remember from it.
Yeah. So what are we going to remember Valhalla for?
Scheffler.
High score. Is it really a major course? Is it, or did the best golfers all knew what they were doing? I don't know.
Yeah, those scores were tough. I mean,
yeah.
I don't recall, like, when I was way younger, like, it would be Tiger Woods under par and everybody else over par. And now everybody, like, was in double-digit under par.
Well, that's right. So, like, when you compare it to the U.S. Open and the USGA, like, Okay, they go to the extreme. And Pinehurst is going to be the next one. And, yeah, like what would be the winning score for that? 4 under, 5 under?
One would think. But
Yeah, like if
after
you're
the last
shooting,
couple of years.
you're shooting pars, you're doing really well. And heck, like you got to go back now, 35 years to like Oak Hill when it was the last time the U.S. Open was here. And Curtis Strange is making pars at the end, and he wins. So, like, yeah, the golfers have gotten better with time. And I don't know if we ever get another U.S. Open, but I think, like, Oak Hill, top of the pecking order, I would hope for the PGA Championship. I'm nervous and jerky, Tim. I just want that announcement, like, right now. We'll talk to Brian Koziel. He's your host of Tee to Green. We'll get his thoughts on everything, and then I'll run by that idea, too. Like, all right, Adam Mayer, head coach of the Amerks. Would that work? Just try that on for size. Mike Danger is out today. Tim Schneider filling in. My name is Gene Battaglia, Sports Bar, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You're listening.
Yeah, the Game 7 tonight in the NHL between Edmonton and Vancouver. Rick Tocchet is the head coach of the Canucks.
A lot of guys are, very confident, joking around. It's a loose group. But also there's some guys that, you can tell that, that's why it's important that you get to them, talk to them, and make them understand. It's, you've done it all year, and just, replay those good things in your head. That's really when it comes down to visualization.
9 p.m. Eastern, the puck drop tonight in that one. Buffalo Bills OTAs beginning today. Things open up to the media tomorrow. Sean McDermott and players to address reporters. One final from baseball as the Padres defeating the Braves 6-5. Top of the sixth, Jays in Toronto leading the White Sox 4-2. The Yankees tonight hosting Seattle. The Mets are down in Cleveland. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Interesting week for sure. When it comes to golf, we talked last week to Brian Coleshiel, and Brian, it's kind of like, I'll ask you the question this way. How did you learn of what happened to Scheffler there on Friday morning? Because to me, I'm listening to the radio, and it took me a good minute to kind of piece together, like, what are they talking about? How did this happen? Brian, thanks for your time today. How are you, bud?
I'm great. It's definitely golf weather outside for sure today. I woke up Friday morning, I don't know, 6:30-ish maybe, and just kind of sometimes what I do is, grab the phone first, see what's happening for the day here, and then saw what Jeff Darlington from ESPN was reporting, and then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, what's happening here? And then started to follow others that are covering it on golf, and saw obviously then eventually ESPN picked up kind of their live coverage of it, and wow, I mean, how incredible. To the point where we get, after he's arrested and taken in, that Scottie Scheffler's in a jail cell watching ESPN of his own arrest, finding out that tee times are delayed, and now calculating if he can make it in time. Like, I mean, that is just incredible. You couldn't make it up. It's not even a movie script that you could really ever think that somebody would think of. Oh, and by the way, then he goes and shoots a 66 that day. Like, I mean, only 3 golfers were better than him on that round. So it shows how great Scheffler is. I know he had a bad third day, came back yesterday with a tremendous day 4, but man, I think this tournament had so many good things happening to it, including the ending. But I think when we look back on this event years from now, we'll think, oh, that was the Scheffler arrest tournament. I think that'll be still the number one headline.
Yeah, we were just having the discussion through that lens, Brian. That like it should be like, hey, this is the time where Schauffele got over the hump there, and he, beginning to end, he was right there. He played, great the one day in particular at 62. We're not going to really remember that. Before we talk about Schauffele and everything else at Valhalla, I'll ask you the question this way: when you look back at Oak Hill last year, what is that remembered for? Would you say?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because we had two different answers here.
I
would say, like, Timmy, who's here today. Tim, go ahead. What did you remember?
I've got Michael Block all weekend, really, but the dunk for sure.
Yeah, the dunk, and then I had, all right, it's Koepka, and I phrased it this way. It felt like there was a little bit of a thaw there between, and I'm coming out of that, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe golf is going to be okay. These two tours can peacefully coexist, and then 1 week later, bam, okay, they're merging. And, well, since that point, it doesn't feel like it's the same. But I guess that's what you want in any major championship, Brian. I guess multiple storylines.
Yeah, the Michael Block story for sure. I mean, what a moment that was. Not only the slam dunk on 15, but then on 18, where he's able to get up and down to qualify for this year's event. Koepka, to me, with him winning and how challenging the course was with the renovation, like, I kind of, like, to me, when I think about that event, like, look at who rose to the top. Like, a bull, a grinder on the golf course, somebody that can handle the tough conditions. And I think Oak Hill got that big-name winner that maybe the previous 2 times with Duffner And with McKee, I mean, Duffner, I'll say, is at the time maybe like a mid-range winner. McKeel was a huge surprise, and obviously, going forward, he didn't have much more of a winning, successful professional career. So for me, Oak Hill kind of saying, okay, we're going to renovate, we're going to go back to kind of being the original design, the challenge that was there was almost like we talked about a U.S. Open sort of challenge, and Koepka was the one that really rose up to the occasion. And I think a valid champion because he's the one that really kind of embraces the challenge of tough major championship golf.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because going out of Oak Hill, and again, myself included, we can be a little sensitive if people are saying bad things about the course here. And, Brian, I really didn't hear anything. I think we all got a passing grade there from the national media, and people were here. Sure, it was, it was frost one day, rainy the next, but it ended up being just fine. Leads me to the question about your thoughts on Valhalla, because we did get a worthy champion. Schauffele certainly is not an unfamiliar name, but do we want to see 21 under is the winning margin? I mean, some of us don't like the USGA and how they make the Open just so punitive. Like you miss one shot, it's in the rough, but there's gotta be a balance here, Brian. So your thoughts on what you saw from Valhalla, the course?
I think what I'm hearing and reading today from golf reporters and people that cover the tournament is that I shouldn't say all, some thought like, oh, this kind of felt like another regular PGA Tour event with the scoring. To me, if you're asking me, like, what's the ideal number to be under par at the end for a major championship, I'm not picking 21 for sure, but I don't know if it took away from the enjoyment of it. To me, all I'm always looking for are the ability to have swings in the leaderboard, both up and down. And that is sometimes what I think is the criticism of the USGA is that, okay, if you make a mistake, at least give me a chance to make up for it. And some years we've found that there really isn't those aren't those opportunities out there on their golf course setup. Now, lately, I think it's been better. PGA Championship, I've, for the last 5-6 years, been very, very positive on in the sense that I think their course setups have set up for dramatic finishes. Do I want 21 under? No. Do I think it played easy because of, A, the setup, and B, the weather that was there weeks coming in? I did. But I want up and down with the top 10. I want the guy that's in seventh to all of a sudden get up to second, and then maybe the guy that's in first falls back to third, but 2 holes later he's right back in first. I want that. That's why we love the back nine at Augusta National during Masters Week, because you can get those swings. You can make a double bogey, you can come right back with an eagle. If you have trouble with 12, well, you got a chance at an eagle putt on 13. That's what I want. That's really all that I ask for. Again, the minus 21, it's a record low under par. I guess, if I'm picking a number, I wouldn't want it to be that low. But all I'm looking for is swings in the leaderboard. Let guys have the ability to be penalized but also recover and get back in it. And I think that's what happened. And in the end, I mean, we haven't really had a close major that comes down to the last hole in the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years here. So to me, I was just loving the fact that it comes down to the last hole. You either birdie to win or we go to a playoff, which would have been great drama too. And for most of the back nine, there were probably 3 to 5 players that all had a chance to win. Eventually it came down to Schauffele and DeChambeau, but that's really what I'm looking for in major championships is give me some ability for the guys to go up and down the board. I don't care how hard or how easy it is, but let it be the fact that there can be some fluctuation in it, and I think that had it. So I'm probably a little bit more positive on what I saw than maybe what others are saying that, Valhalla was easy, it was too wet, and all that sort of stuff. I feel like you can make any golf course harder. You want to, you can just raise the rough. You can bring in the fairways. You can roll the greens more. I mean, it was a very, very soft course, so guys were going at pins. There wasn't a lot of runoff and a lot of roll-off of front of greens or back of greens, so I think that's why we saw the minus 21.
Brian Koziel, he's your host of Tee to Green, which you can hear Saturdays on WGR, also in the free-to-download Odyssey app. About that, Champ, Shoffley hoisting the Wanamaker, and I guess we're happy for him. And your thoughts on his play, and also now who would have, I don't know if he had the title before, but who would be that guy that is the best player on the tour never to win a major? Is it Victor Hovland? Is it somebody else, Brian?
Yeah, I think, I'll start with Shoffley. I mean, he had 11 top tens in a major coming in.
Wow.
2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fifths, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth, and 2 tenths. Like, that's amazing. And the last few years, though, the narrative about Shoffley has been his inability to close. And he hasn't won in 2 years. And he talked about that quite a bit, of how, it was bothering him. And yes, he wasn't necessarily mad at the media for bringing it up because he knew it was factual, but he was annoyed that he had to keep answering the question. And he knew, look, if I just win, I don't have to answer this question anymore. So is he a worthy champion? For sure. I mean, if you look at that 11 other times, he's had, in some sense, a chance to win a major. So I'm happy for him personally. I think, if you're Valhalla and you're the PGA, are you saying, look, other than Scottie Scheffler winning right now and making it the greatest, year on earth besides Tiger Woods in 2000 for golf, you'd say, who are some guys that you want to have legacy to have your chance? I think Xander Schauffele's a good winner to have. As far as the next player to the best, the current best player that hasn't won a major, I mentioned Hovland this morning. I was talking with the guys on WGR. The only reason I retracted Hovland as I was talking it out was I said he's just been on the scene so few years. He's just really been kind of a top golfer here for the last 2 seasons. And because he's so young, I'm going to give him the pass. I'm going to go with maybe Patrick Cantlay as my answer to this at this moment. I think he's had enough years where he's been top 10 in the world rankings. He's had enough cracks at majors that I think it's a much smaller amount than Hovland has. So I think that's probably my answer at the moment. And again, we could look at career-wise. Fowler is a guy that obviously you'd say was good enough to win a major. But I feel like, if you're just talking about who's playing the best right now that's had a legitimate crack at majors, I think you could probably throw Cantlay in there. And then after that, again, with limited history, I'll throw Hovland and maybe Max Homa in that list too.
Yeah, Hovland, I guess we're kind of partial here, Brian, because, seeing him last year, and you're hoping for the big kind of finale, him and Koepka, and then, he gets plugged, and that's that. But he was right up there, so we're always wondering, okay, I wonder when he's going to break through, because you'll remember, that good tournament he had here at Oak Hill. I didn't realize until just doing Reno, wow, he had actually been kind of struggling this year to the point where he didn't even know, mentally, if he was going to be into it, playing the PGA Championship. I guess it's kind of a reminder that, I suppose all sports, you really need kind of that tough mental makeup. But whether it's Hovland, going back to his coach and figuring things out, or whether it's Scheffler from his jail cell, these guys mentally, Brian, are on such a different plane than you and I and everybody else.
It really is. And, for Hovland, he had a really, really struggle of the year, which obviously surprising. He's coming off of dominating the FedEx Cup playoffs last year. He was a world-class player, but people always said, well, he'll never be in that elite class because his short game is not as good as everybody else. Well, then last year he really worked on that, improved that, and that was on display when he was the best player in the FedEx Cup playoffs last year. This year, again, quiet start, had a decent run at the Masters on the first 2 days, and then kind of fell off where he ended up missing the cut. But it was the middle of Friday. He was actually right there. And the middle of Thursday, and then he ended up falling off in that tournament. So I think for him, this can maybe be a nice springboard for him. He's still ranked 5th in the world. You mentioned, obviously, last year. He'll remember that shot into the bunker at Oak Hill on number 16, probably until he goes back to play another event there for a long time. Because if that shot goes well, who knows? We could have been talking about maybe a different finish, or that dramatic finish that we got yesterday with that 1-2 battle between Schauffele and DeChambeau. We could have maybe had it with Koepka and Hovland. But I think with Hovland's kind of just the mental makeup that you said, he seems to have such a great approach to golf. Always smiling, seems to have that great personality where doesn't let things bother him. So when you're that good and you're able to shake things off pretty easily, I think that's why Dustin Johnson was always so. He just kind of just always like, hey, you're going to hit bad shots. Let's move on to the next one. I feel like that attitude is why he's a major champion. Some guys can handle this ability. Now, Koepka does it in a little different way, too. He comes in saying, look, this is a major. I'm stepping up my game. Half these guys are already done because they can't handle the pressure, and I love it. Here we go. So, all these guys kind of have their own little mental things. We know Tiger, of course, had his whole different psyche and what he did with approach with tournaments. So that's why it makes him the best in the world. As you said, they're all so mentally strong in their own way, and I think Victor Hovland is definitely on the doorstep that he'll get his major very soon.
Brian Koziel, our guest here, as now the third major coming up the week of June 10th. Back to Pinehurst we go for the U.S. Open. This Donald Ross course, I mean, to say they're in the regular rotation, it's every 6 years. So, like Brian, what do we know? What makes this course so special? And as we look ahead, who might that course kind of favor?
Well, I mean, the history at this event, I mean, just tremendous. That when we think about what has happened with Pinehurst, probably when people think of Pinehurst, if you're old enough, the memory of Payne Stewart and his famous pose, 1999, where he beats a very, very young Phil Mickelson at that point, and reaches in and embraces him, kind of grabs his face and talks about him being a father, because that was the moment Mickelson was going to have to leave the course because his wife was due at any moment at that point. So I think when you talk about tournaments at Pinehurst, you've got great champions. Obviously, you've got other times that it's been there previously. Martin Keimer ran away with it a decade ago in 2014. He left the field essentially in that tournament when he was there. But it sounds like it's going to be coming back quite a bit. By the way, Michael Campbell, anybody have that one on your radar? In 2005, remember he won at Pinehurst. Actually beat out Tiger Woods that year, who finished second. So the history is there. We know Pinehurst is going to host women's opens, senior opens, men's opens. Going to be on the regular rotation for a long, long time. It's a public course. People have played it. It's kind of one of those revered places in United States golf history. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's beautiful on the eyes and a lot of those waist trap areas. So, if you're accurate off the tee, you're going to have a chance, which I guess you could say on a lot of U.S. Open venues.
Brian, I'm going to go off the board because folks know you were also the host of Buffalo Sabres hockey on the radio network and part of the Sabres family, the Amherst family. And we're kind of waiting for news and info to kind of trickle out on the Rochester Americans coaching search. And I just wanted to kind of try one name on you because we do know and we can report that both the assistants for the Amherst last year, being Nathan Page and Vinny Prospel, are getting interviews, and I don't know when or if they already took place. But I heard another name, Adam Mayer, the director of player development, where, he was an assistant with the Amherst. And before he took that position as assistant coach, and certainly you remember him as a player. What do we know about Adam Mayer, Brian?
From what everybody has said, when Adam Mayer has worked within the Sabres organization, that he's super, super well-liked. Obviously played during Lindy Ruff's time, and I think when you talk about Mayer himself, it's a player that brings an attitude of strong work ethic, team first, very disciplined, very structured. So I think when you're talking about working with younger players and developing players, I think that could be a really good fit. I think, too, the Sabres are really, and Kevin Adams is doing this, trying to embrace Sabres history in some sense with hiring people. I think he did it a little with bringing back of Lindy Ruff. He's trying to really reach out to alums, keep them involved in some capacity. We've heard other names of Pekka and Key and other players that you mentioned there too. Nathan Page, former players. So I think that's something that I could see Kevin Adams doing. As far as Adam Mayer goes specifically as a coach, I think if you're looking for that guy you want to instill that culture in your minor league levels of discipline, responsibility, work ethic, structure, all those sort of things, I think Mayer would check a lot of those boxes.
Our guest, Brian Koziel, Tee to Green. You can hear every Saturday on WGR, also free in the Odyssey app. So, Brian, looking ahead, I know you just kind of wrapped up this weekend, but as we're already looking ahead to a holiday weekend here, what can we check out?
Yeah, well, this week, normal Saturday slot will be on at 7 a.m., 7 to 8. We'll be at Glen Oak Golf Course, which is in Amherst, for those that maybe have ever played it. Tim Freeze, the PGA Pro, who actually owns Glen Oak Golf Course as well, was one of the starters, and meaning one of the announcers on the first tee at Valhalla. He was there all week. He's on the national board for the PGA, so he's going to be with us, and we'll obviously ask him about that experience and everything that was at Valhalla last week, and also maybe see if we can dig some details out about future sites for the PGA from him next week. So we'll obviously talk a little bit more about everything that you and I did here in a little bit more detail, but hopefully maybe we can get some juicy PGA of America gossip out of Tim.
Brian, you're way more connected in the golf world than I'll ever be, but the thing I do know, you ask boy, they're very tight-lipped. They're not going to tell you in advance, yeah, you know what, don't worry, you're going to get it in 2033 at Oak Hill. Like, they're not going to tip your hand there.
No, I'm not guaranteeing he's going to break the news of a future site on our show, but maybe we can at least find out what what is some of the criteria that they look at, or
when they're going to make the decision. That could also be part, like, hey, give us kind of a timeline here. Like,
right, that's really all I want to know. Like, tell us, like, hey, for the, what is it, the 32 and the 33 sites are open. Like, when's the absolute latest they're going to announce those dates? That's what we really need to know for sure. That way we can at least figure out when to start kind of rev up our anticipation.
Brian, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And let's talk in June. Be well.
Sounds good. We'll talk for the U.S. Open. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Brian Koziel, who you hear on WGR during the Sabres season. I had to kind of ask the question there. And look, I think it's going to be Mayer. That's just my gut. I know you and other, like, bring back Pekka.
If it's not plausible, it's not plausible. But Pekka's A1 for me.
Well, Pekka would be the dream candidate, right?
It's a bummer that we weren't able to I mean, good for him for taking a job in the National Hockey League, but it's a bummer the way that the timeline worked out. It's like if things just lined up into place, the answer is obvious. Like, Appert goes up, Pekka moves up, and then we're good.
Yeah, and there's one question I like is, like, does Seth get a say in this? He might. Like, if they're going to go in-house, and if it's going to be Mayer, they go to Seth, hey, how would your two guys – because that's also something too. Like, we've all been there, right? Hey, I'm applying for this job internally. Hey, you know what? We really, really like you. This is not going to go my way, is it? Like for Vinny and for Nathan Page. But I would think that both those guys, in terms of their coaching career – they're not past due. Let's just put it that way. They're still just kind of getting started, and it's great that Nathan has made Rochester home, and Prospel, I would think, would come back too. And I would think that since the guy that's the player development coach was already here before they even started here with the organization, that wouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, I got passed over.
Yeah, I don't hate the Adam Mayer move if that's the move they take, but he's not my top selection. And as far as Page and Prospel go, like, it sounds like they're assured jobs. So hopefully there's a working relationship with the guy that becomes their boss. Because if there's not, what's the point of them being guaranteed a job if they don't agree with the guy in charge with them? Like,
it's like, exactly. So again, and if it ends up being Adam Mayer, I think a lot of Amherst fans will be like, oh.
Yeah, it's a boring hire, but it's not a bad hire.
Yeah, I was hoping for Pekka. I was hoping. You got to remember, too, how many of y'all heard of Seth Appert before he was hired? Not too many. The name rung a bell for me. I'm like, well, that's right, the guy from RPI.
Yep.
That was college hockey. I mean, could they go that route? I don't know which college. Look, college hockey is like a different world now. Like with the portal, name, image, and likeness. Maybe there's a college hockey coach that is calling up Kevin Adams like, hey, that job? Can I interview for it? I don't know. And so, again, I'm going to stand by this here. If we get to Wednesday after Memorial Day, let's say June 1st, roughly, maybe they are waiting for Pekka. Like, as long as the Rangers are still in this, everybody.
They have to do their due diligence either way. Like, if they need to wait for Pekka and he's interested in the job, you wait for Pekka.
Yeah.
If they don't have to wait for Pekka, if he says I'm not interested, then you move on.
Right. So, and you have to also understand too, like the assistant coach is not speaking to the media on a regular basis.
Right.
So Michael Pekka is not available to Larry Brooks and all the Stan Fischler and all the other New York scribes. Okay, that's not going to happen. But even if they were, hey, are you interested in that Rochester job? Like you would flick that away like a bug. Okay, like you're in the middle of the Stanley freaking Cup playoffs. I mean, look, I'm not a Ranger fan. Not a Florida fan, though. I think like what I am a fan of was what's good for the sport. And having the Rangers back in the Cup final, it's not going to be Edmonton, though. I think that they get bounced.
I just can't believe that that's even a series. They should be blowing the doors off of Vancouver.
Vancouver's not good either.
Besser's out now with a blood clot.
That's right.
And they're on their backup goalie. Seelovs is in and Demko's out. Edmonton making this series go 7 instead of burning the doors off of these guys is insane. So,
well, like there have been like in sports, like where you have inequities between the East and the West, and to me, this has been going on for how long? Like the Sabres in the Western Conference, like you put them out in the Pacific. Yeah, like you have the Kings making the playoff,
right?
Yeah, the Sabres are better. Like the East is better. You could say in the NBA, it's vice versa, and that's a fair criticism too.
Yeah, the West and the NBA has been better than the East for my entire existence. And now, I mean, there might be a little bit of a... With 10 teams making the playoffs or the play-in now,
it's like,
everybody has a shot. But in the NHL, nobody wanted that ace seed in the East, or the second wild card spot, however you want to phrase it. And Washington got it, and they were out in 4 games.
See, I think that the NHL should take the NBA system, but just do it a little differently, meaning... Well, it would be different. Like, it wouldn't be different. 1 game. 7 through 10. Can you imagine what that would be like?
Pretty exciting.
Oh, that would be unbelievable. It'd be like, a deciding game right out. Like, here you go. Yum, 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 yum.
We're asking a sport that hasn't done anything correctly in at least 35 years to do something right, though, so it won't happen.
Yeah, what am I thinking? Crazy.
Wishful.
Yeah, wishful. We had time for your calls today. If you're like, hey, this sounds different, where's Danger? Danger's golfing. Okay. Hopefully he's shooting a decent round today. And I don't know. We'll find out all about this tomorrow on the show. So kind enough to come in and fill today. Our buddy Tim Schneider here. We have time for your calls in happy hour. There's on the way next. 866-4FAN. 866-4326 is our phone number. You can reach us on X. The handle, The Fan Rochester. My name is Gene Battaglia. Tim Schneider here. And this is The Sports Bar.
You're listening to The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
We got a Game 7 tonight in the National Hockey League. It's Edmonton and Vancouver. Bills OTAs beginning today. Steve Tasker on what to look for.
This is real football practice with installations, with terminologies, with schemes and concepts. This is high-level stuff now, and that's big.
It'll feel a little like football tomorrow. Head coach Sean McDermott and players to address reporters as OTA is continuing out in Orchard Park. One final from baseball today is the Padres defeating the Braves 6-5. San Diego now above 500 on the season. The Jays are up on top of the White Sox 5-3 as they're in the 7th. Yankees tonight hosting Seattle. The Mets are in Cleveland, Boston down in Tampa Bay. Rochester Red Wings are off. They play at Lehigh Valley tomorrow. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Garbage plate.
Hot dogs from heaven.
Don't quit your sports job.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
If you're watching on the YouTube app or Twitch, you just see out of camera, that is not Mike Danger. That is Radio's Tim Schneider filling in. I thought you'd be wearing all your Bonnie gear here today.
I sat it out today. I just needed to find our good buddy Twisty, an old American Horror Story character. Just grabbed a shirt today, honestly.
Yeah, no, that I didn't watch much of that series, but that was the one where, like, oh, yeah, that was...
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I figured that you would. That'd be
even
right up
part
your
of the
alley.
fan club.
Why does that not surprise me?
Shouldn't.
No. Schneider in today. Danger is playing. I don't know where he's playing golf. I guess we'll learn about all that tomorrow. Did one of these let me MC the charity event, with the luncheon and the dinner, and then play a little golf in between. So anytime that we can give back, that's always kind of important. And hey, listen, if you're out today, go outside. It is just roll down the windows. This is one of those days that we live for in this town, and we are coming off a sports weekend where we had a lot, and it would take something on a beautiful Sunday to pull me in from outside, but I made sure that I got my power wash done, made sure I got the yard work done, and I'm running a little late. Let me just see. It's on the second quarter. It's the NBA. Like, it doesn't – oh. The Knicks are already down by 16. Where the Knicks, they closed in the second half. They were down by 6 at one point, but just some careless turnovers. But to me, the outcome, losing in Indiana, I'm telling you, and I said this last week, I'm not surprised that the Knicks lost this series because to me, they've been running on fumes here for a while. I just don't know that Indiana taking on a rested Boston team, a Boston team that may get Porzingis back. Like, to me, it just seems like even though the Celtics are one of these teams that has a flaw, coaching, I just don't know, but to me, that wasn't the surprise yesterday. The surprise was, what the heck happened to Denver? You're the champs.
Crazy.
You're up by 20.
At home.
Has there ever been a series that everybody every step of the way was wrong about? We were, oh my gosh, Denver's going to be the team. Minnesota wins the first 2. My goodness, look at the Timberwolves.
I thought they were asleep
Denver
at that
comes
point,
back. Yeah. Oh my goodness, don't underestimate the heart of a champion. I mean, back and forth and back and forth. That might be the series that we remember this postseason.
Yeah, that was definitely a great series. The Pacers-Knicks series was good too, and the Sixers-Knicks series. There's been some good NBA playoffs so far, but that Timberwolves-Nuggets series was excellent because everybody got it wrong all 7 games. Like everybody was wrong the entire time, and that made for compelling basketball.
Yeah, and now you get Timberwolves Dallas, and I feel like I've been wrong on Dallas too because, all right, Kyrie, who we all have our thoughts about, right? And how do you view Kyrie as an ex-Cavs fan? Is he because they don't win the championship if it's not for him?
Yeah, I think outside of his brain being mush because he thinks the world is flat, I think he's a great basketball player, and I think that LeBron brought that championship to Cleveland, but I don't think he gets it done without Kyrie there. I'm also technically a Mavs fan. They were my first team because of Dirk Nowitzki, so I'm cool with it, but I'm just not a huge NBA guy, so I'm not going to celebrate a Mavs championship or a Cavs championship the way I would a Guardians, Browns, or Sabres.
No, you shouldn't. And then that's always I have a second favorite team. I don't know if you I don't ever subscribe to that. You can only be all in on one. You can't be watching unless you really, when it comes to the sport, you're really not kind of
fan of players and fan of team. I love players on other teams because they make the sport interesting and fun to watch. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. I will never forget the draft day. I'm sitting there hoping they take him first overall. They take Baker. I'm like, whatever. They got their guy. And then you, 6 picks later, draft Josh Allen, and you snap him in half. You snap your glasses in half.
Yeah, you had, it wasn't number 1. You also you had a chance at 4.
Yeah, but they had already picked a quarterback there at that point. So
I got you.
They could have. I was on board with them taking 2 quarterbacks, but that's silly management.
Silly management.
But yeah, Josh Allen, I've been a huge fan of since before the draft. I love guys on other teams, but if it's not the Browns winning the Super Bowl, I want one of my favorite players to win the Super Bowl.
I thought that's what Atlanta was doing. When they took Penix, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant because they know Denver wants him. They know the Raiders want him. Okay, gentlemen, the clock starts right now. Who's trading for him?
Yeah, you draft ahead of the guy, and then you sell your soul for him.
I'm like, wow, okay. Well, that's a bold move, Cotton, as they would say. Tim Schneider in. My name is Gene Battaglia. Danger off today. Time for your calls at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. And for golf was, I would say, coming off the Masters in a pretty big rut because you have just Scheffler not only winning, but kind of getting this whole label of being boring. And when it comes to winning, the competition really isn't there. And the live golfers, where it seemed like we're moving to a place where how do we figure out a format where these two tours can peacefully coexist or merge or something like that. No, they never felt more apart. You have Tiger walking around as an old man, which is really depressing. The state of golf is not in a good spot. But you introduce just a little bit of crime into it, Tim, and all of a sudden we're paying attention. And sometimes, courses get kudos, Oak Hill. This is great for everything. But Valhalla ended up being a story, too, because, the greens were really wet, and you weren't really dealing with high rough or anything like that. No way should a major champion be shooting 21 under for the whole tournament.
Yeah, if you're carving up a golf course at a major event, that major event needs some tweaking. It was exciting, I guess. It went down to literally the final hole, but it should have been at -4 or 5, not -21.
Yeah, that's...
But you sprinkle in some Scotty Scheffler, and NASCAR got in the mix too. Crime everywhere. Minority sports.
Yeah, during an all-star event. Okay, I got to admit, I only have so much bandwidth when it comes to sports. I didn't know they had a NASCAR All-Star.
I didn't. I knew there was an event. I didn't know it was an All-Star game.
What is the point of that?
I have no idea.
What is the point of that?
It's like the FedEx Cup playoffs, but it's really just people golfing, but with higher stakes.
Yeah, everybody's competing every week individually. Right. It's okay. That was just an exhibition. Fine. And then we're going to throw down for it, which I said earlier in the show. What would be the scenario where you would get players throwing down in any all-star event?
It's tough to find one in this day and age. No. Maybe in the 70s, when you've got, Pete Rose blowing up the catcher?
Ray Fosse.
Yeah, that was that probably should have led to blows.
You know how old that is? That's actually before my time. But that's what they would always show
That's I remember it, and I wasn't alive for it. So yeah, like
probably into the career of that poor
and then
catcher.
you've got Sean Taylor blowing up Mormon, but that wasn't a fight. That was just a football play.
That's a football
in a
play.
football game, but
Yeah,
you don't get those anymore.
Yeah, Mormon pops right back up, and yeah, that was the last time we had anybody hit anyone.
It's a long time ago.
NFL field. The Bills on the field today for the OTAs, and in terms of news and info, well, we'll get more of that tomorrow as Sean McDermott to talk to reporters, and I'm sure we'll ask questions about the wide receivers. We were joined earlier today by Mookie Hawkins, WUFO sports director, and I thought was interesting the idea that they're reshaping this whole Bills wide receiving core, not to have separation per se, but to be a little more physical, to have guys that are a little taller. You don't need Smurfs. Now, that's not where Shakir kind of fits in. I think Shakir is one of those tweeners, and that's why he actually kind of fell. But I am driving the Shakir train here, Tim. And maybe I go off a cliff, but I honestly think that the Bills have the answer right here, right in front of them. I think he's going to be your number one. Understanding that Dalton Kincaid may end up number one in targets, I'm talking about amongst the wide receivers.
See, it's funny that you say that because last training camp, I watched a lot of those practices, and I truly believed, like I've told people, friends of mine, like Shakir is not it. He's not right. He's not going to make it out of training camp.
You're not alone on that. That like we talked to him thinking, I don't know if he makes this team.
And it's funny how like 180 you can go. I guess it would be a full 360 or 359. I was wrong. And I will own that because he looks like a viable replacement for Gabe Davis at minimum. I don't know if he's going to jump into the number one role, but he doesn't really have a choice. So
no, he's going to get more targets. He only got 45 last year, but the thing he brings is hands. Like he's like when that ball's coming in hot, like amongst wide receivers second year, like he didn't drop anything. It was just he very reliable in that regard. So he's got a spot in this team. But when you look at it top to bottom, all right, Shakir and Coleman and Samuel, I don't know how you want to divvy that up. Samuel seems more, I don't want to say gadget because that's selling him short, but he's the wide receiver that'll do end rounds. He's a wide receiver actually has never played with a good quarterback, so he's on this team. MVS on the team?
I think he is. But they're really just throwing darts at veteran receivers there and hoping that one sticks, maybe as a leader or a depth guy. I don't think either of those options become like a viable candidate to be that number one receiver. They might put up numbers, but I was stunned when Mookie said that he expected Keon Coleman to jump in off the big 1,000 yards, double-digit touchdowns. That's Randy Moss.
That's OBJ.
That's bold.
You don't get the 80 receiver, 1,000 yard, 10 touchdown. Like I think OBJ was like the first one to actually hit those numbers. So look, if he has 50 catches, 750, and 5-6 touchdowns, yeah,
that's an incredible year in its own.
Good, yeah.
And he's projecting pretty much double that output fantasy-wise.
Yeah, so like I don't know if that's going to be the case, but like that's going to be the fun part about this with Coleman. Back to like the pecking order, because if we have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and you and I are in agreement there, because I think that if you're looking for ways to beat the Chiefs in the postseason, he's somebody that, okay, he's had some bad drops. He's somebody who was like cut in his career, but whenever it comes to the postseason, he's a different guy. So like, all right, that is what the Bills are bringing him in for. Yeah, then what? I think Shorter's on this team, and that's a little bit of a leap of faith, right? Because what we saw at St. John Fisher last year, hey, that's really good. He gets hurt, and then you don't see him again. So that's something we're all going to be monitoring. That's going to be the number one guy I'm sure that Bills fans want to know about when we're talking, hey, tell me more about Justin Shorter, because you can make an argument that, hey, not only is he going to be on this team, he's going to be the number 3 receiver, or he could be cut.
Yeah, I mean, there's options in-house already, and again, they've already added and cut a couple of guys. Like they added Cephas for a week? He's gone.
That was it.
Chase Claypool, I think, is still on the roster.
He is, in fact, yeah.
So you've got Claypool, Samuel, MVS. One of those guys, maybe 2, make the team.
Yeah,
but where do they slot on the depth chart? Who knows?
You have Mac Hollins, who was with the Falcons, with the Raiders, and then you have KJ Hamler, who, all right,
sounds like a special teamer to me.
Well, that's important, though.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it is. Yes,
these new rules, though, it's like, is he the guy with all these players here? Who is the one that is actually going to kind of pop here forget who we had on the with us last time. I'm like, who's going to be the returner? Ty Johnson. I'm thinking, I like Ty Johnson. I hope they have a better answer as a kick returner than Ty Johnson. Like, you need somebody back there that, oh my gosh, they have the ball and he's got one man to beat. I think this new kickoff rule is the most exciting thing that's happened to the NFL in terms of the change of rules in years.
It'll be fun to see how it plays out at first, or the gimmicks that the coordinators put together to exploit the way that it's set up now, because somebody's going to have to innovate it, and that's when everybody copycats. So one play is going to work, and then all 32 teams are going to do it, and then it's not going to work anymore.
Right. Will you get like more of the home run throwback stuff, or like you'll have a guy at the other end of the field? Like there's all these possibilities that could happen with the kickoff rule. Or how do you kick it off to begin with? How do you defend it? Are you going to have teams that are just going to be like, you know what? Fine, take it to the 40. We don't want you returning it. I mean, maybe you have a team that recognizes, hey, we're not kind of caught up to that point. But I think bringing it back to the wide receivers, I think that's also part of this too, is like, all right, which one of these guys can actually return? And I don't know about Hamler. I mean, he hasn't been healthy. I don't know about Shorter because we really haven't seen it. So that's I love this today, talking today, Tim, because it's not just the Bills. All these teams around the league, 21 of them, in fact, beginning OTAs today. So it feels a little bit about like football season, kind of cherry picking a few things here. So Rashee Rice, he's at OTAs in Kansas City.
Lucky him.
Well, let's see. Good for him. You got to stay on the straight and narrow. Not at OTAs. Justin Jefferson. That's an interesting standoff there, because if you have the rookie quarterback, and I think we can assume that they're going to go with McCarthy, right, at quarterback?
I would assume so.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want to give him all, or is this going to be a negotiation that we get, like, and Jefferson really has no power here in any of this. He's going to want to play through the fifth year, but then maybe at some point, like, all right, then I'll play, and then that's it. I'm going to head to free agency. And I know there's a lot of Bills fans who be like, yes, bring in Justin Jefferson, which... Look,
sure.
That's like the thing with the Bills, and we're so far away from figuring out 2025 cap space, but it's pretty clean next year.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's right now they can't do anything.
No, they can't do anything. But Diggs is off the books, and you have an out with Von Miller next year, and unless Von Miller starts acting like Von Miller, I would expect he's not on this team, and that'll be a little bit of a cap charge, but you're going to be able to save money. All the Tre'Davious White money off the books. So. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Some of the wide receiver money, it gets to like a point where, okay, quarterback, I understand. Wide receiver, and this is probably what the Vikings are debating. It's like, do we want to pay this long term when we can get equal production by just kind of making a few draft picks?
And that's exactly what they did, if you think about it. Yeah. They got rid of Diggs, who they didn't want to pay, and they got Justin Jefferson, who they probably don't want to pay. It's just recycling the same strategy over and over. If it works, keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, hey, if I'm Brandon Beane, Justin Jefferson.
Same thing. It worked. Diggs worked.
Yeah. And it's funny, like every time I bring up online, make an offer for Justin Jefferson, like Viking fan or Viking reporter Matthew Colleras, Rochester Roots, we've had him on the show before. Like, no, they're not moving on from Justin Jefferson. So to me, this just feels like it kind of feels like one of those contract negotiations, summertime things that you're just going to have to kind of deal with. And look, it's also freaking May.
Yep.
It is May. I think for the Vikings, it's a little more important with a rookie quarterback. For the Bills, is it a little more important this year with a new offensive coordinator? Maybe. I don't know. Like, how much of this offense is really going to change? Maybe that's one of the storylines tomorrow with Joe Brady. Joe Brady had to come in and just not blowing up the playbook midseason. Can't do it. Sure, he's tweaking things along the way, but now this is his playbook, and he's had kind of months to kind of go over it, and I'm sure the head coach has a lot to say in this, but is it going to be a different offense next year? And I'm just wondering, Tim, that you draft a running back in the fourth round. You have James Cook. By the way, James Cook was number 2 last year in scrimmage yards, only behind McCaffrey, which that's kind of shocking to me.
Decent company, yeah.
Yeah, so like you didn't think of James Cook in that regard, no. And he's not going to be like this first round pick, but production would tell you otherwise. So will the Buffalo Bills become the offense that we shouldn't say we, Bills fans, they do like Tim to throw the ball and getting it downfield, but is this going to be more ball control? Is it going to be Josh Allen less runs? We're going to make sure that we don't turn the ball over, and we're going to win games because our defense right now, there's a lot of question marks around the defense for Buffalo.
I think it's going to be a wildly different offense despite only one piece really leaving, and that's Diggs. I think that you've got Kincaid now ready to unleash himself. You've got Josh Allen, who, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in football. You've got James Cook, who might be one of the most underrated or undervalued players in football. Those guys are all coming back and ready for more. And the only thing that isn't coming back is Diggs, who is preventing them from really doing anything in the first place.
A couple things, couple pieces. And one, I will say, look, it's okay to look past that guy, but Gabe Davis isn't there. And Gabe Davis, when he popped, he popped.
He did.
But there were times where, like, he's not here. He was also voted a captain, which there's something to that. The guy who will block, the guy who does things away from the football. So there's an element to that. Will they be able to replace? The one I look at, and this is like one of those storylines we won't know until we see it. You let go of Mitch Morse. Like that offensive line last year, no questions. I don't know if we'll have a time again where each week for the whole season, left to right, there are your starters, led by Mitch Morse. And to me, it felt like the release of Mitch Morse, we're doing this a year too early rather than a year too late, meaning the threat of getting another concussion and that's it for Morse, it was always there. And he was, in my opinion, a top 10 center. That was a bold move. You had tough decisions with the cap. You saved the money. And to slide McGovern over from left guard to center, and now you're bringing in David Edwards, who couldn't bring out McGovern, you are just admitting to the world that you are weaker at two positions on the offensive line than you were last year. Unless, and this is the big unknown, Van Pan Granger, the center out of Georgia, 5th rounder. You don't see 5th rounders all of a sudden become starters in their rookie year, and that might be a tall order, but if he comes in and looks the part, and it's not the same thing, I understand, but Osiris Torrance last year as a 2nd rounder, this time last year we're not talking about him as a starter. We're talking about Ryan Bates as the starter last year. And little by little, and they're like, okay, well, maybe that's a rotation. And then even leading into like the opener of the Jets, I'm like, that's a tough spot for the Jets. I don't know if I would trust the rookie. Guess what the Bills did? They trusted the rookie. They went with a better player, and they made the right choice from the outside. We all like Ryan Bates, but he was really just kind of a backup, and now he's traded, and he can go start in Chicago. Which brings me back to Van Pan Granger. Like, they're not going to tell you tomorrow. If I was there in Buffalo tomorrow, that would be my question. Tell me about Van Pan Granger, and they will not put any weight of expectations on any of these rookies. It just doesn't, to the point where Kincaid, we're getting in October, use him. They ease him in here. But they didn't do that with Torrance last year, Tim, and I'm just wondering, what's the expectation? Is this going to be kind of a redshirt year at the center, or will he actually have a new center here being the rookie, and then, all right, maybe the offensive line won't be as bad or taking a downgrade as compared to last year.
And from a Cleveland perspective, they drafted DeJuan Jones last year. Same idea. Don't use him unless you have to. They had to because they went through a carousel alignment, and he was excellent. And then he got hurt. But that was a diamond in the rough find. I don't know why he went in the 5th round when he was projected to go in the 1st or the 2nd. But this guy out of Georgia, same kind of thing, it sounds like. Like, if he's ready to go, thrust him into that role and get great value out of a pick that was, almost 200 overall?
Can you give Buffalo Wyatt Teller back?
No, he's ours. He stays. That was for free.
That was bad. That was a bad move.
Yeah, the Browns make plenty of bad moves on their own, so let them make the one good move.
Yeah, that would be it. What do you think about opening against Dallas there? I haven't talked to you about that. So.
I think that it'll be an exciting game that the Browns will likely start 0-1 in, and that's fine because that's what they do. I think they've won one regular season opening game in their return to the NFL in 25 years.
What's interesting about that, Tim, is you're in the spotlight. That's not a Sunday 1 o'clock. Oh, look at this. That's the 425 game. That's Tom Brady making his debut. That is a lot going into that. And sure, Cleveland's had some primetime games, no doubt, over the last few years. I mean, I remember one against the Jets with Baker Mayfield, but that feels as big as they come, even though it's not under the lights per se. But to be on Fox, 425, week 1 against Dallas, putting Cleveland in that position?
That's a home game in Cleveland, too.
That's okay. That would be the biggest regular season game for the Browns since
probably one of the Bengals games around Halloween a year or two ago.
Yeah,
and they steamrolled them, so it was awesome. But then they got hurt, and everybody goes away.
Yeah,
the Browns don't really have a meaningful regular season until they get lucky and find themselves in a playoff hunt.
Yeah, until you get Joe Flacco.
I have a Joe Flacco jersey.
Do you know where Joe Flacco is now?
Joe Flacco is in, I forgot.
Okay. Do you know where?
I know the answer, but I forgot.
Gardner Minshew is
Vegas.
Joe Flacco is in Indianapolis.
The replacements.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
So, but because we all got tired of the DeMar Hamlin story, we had to give Joe Flacco the comeback.
I mean, he earned it. I mean, outside of he didn't die on the field.
I would think that coming back from death, that would trump everything. But
I don't disagree, but I'll take it. More accolades that people can hate Cleveland for.
We got shots in the sports bar coming up as some of the stories we'll go over here as, the Knicks go out in big ball of fire. The Padres win today, and they also have one of their pitchers. Maybe they're the team to kind of watch here to catch fire here as we head to June. And we do have some hot uniform talk in Major League Baseball, and I'll phrase it this way. This New City Connect, I don't know if you saw this, Tim. We'll see this. I don't hate it. We got those stories coming up and more. My name is Gene Battaglia, Tim Schneider in for Danger. It's the Sports Bar on the Fan, Rochester.
Rochester Sports Update.
No action tonight in the NBA, but we do get a Game 7 in the NHL. Edmonton and Vancouver. Rick Tocchet is the head coach of the Canucks.
A lot of guys are, very confident, joking around. It's a loose group. But also there's some guys that, you can tell that, that's why it's important that you get to them, talk to them, and make them understand. It's, you've done it all year, and just, replay those good things in your head. That's really what it comes down to, visualization.
It's day one of organized team activities, also known as OTAs, for the Buffalo Bills. Tomorrow, Sean McDermott and players to talk to reporters. Final from baseball today, the Padres winning over the Braves 6-5. Jays and White Sox still going on up in Toronto. It's now Toronto leading 9-3. They're in the bottom of the 8th. Red Sox tonight in Tampa. The Yankees of Seattle. The Mets are in Cleveland. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Bills fans, Odyssey is your home for football. Stay up to date on everything Bills, no matter where you are, with the Odyssey app and the sports leader, The Fan, Rochester.
Boy, you can't play this anymore. You don't play this for a setup guy.
Sure you do. Come on, he's great. What happened?
No, there's a couple times where this song just kind of ruined it for me. One was Seinfeld saying, hey, we shouldn't have Timmy Trumpet live. You haven't won anything. And, well, then that season kind of fell apart for the Mets. But then here were the Mets actually trailing in a deciding game to the Padres in the wild card round. I think they're down by 4, something like that. Okay, well, you know what? We have Diaz. Let's just kind of use him last inning. And they play that like, no. And then you had all the Padre fans, they're...
I think it's a great song. It's just unfortunate that the holder of the song lost his job.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, he's coming off injury. You got to give him a little bit of slack, I suppose.
Yeah. Maybe he regains his form tonight in Cleveland.
We'll see.
We have just the one game that, as we mentioned, Edmonton, Vancouver. The winner to face Dallas in the Western Conference Final. Oilers minus 165 in the money line tonight. Who's out for Vancouver? You were mentioning
their top goal scorer, Brock Besser.
Yeah,
blood clot in his leg. Real bummer.
Yeah. Big factor for Edmonton. It's going to be their goaltending. Stuart Skinner. He gets the call tonight. He has not been good. A save percentage this postseason of just .881. 9 o'clock for the coverage tonight on ESPN. Got a feeling he'll have to stay up for this one here. Next star, Jalen Brunson was battling through various ailments, got himself on the court, but this one he couldn't battle through. He broke his hand. You could actually kind of see it if you kind of noticed it on that play. But by that point, the game was already over. The Pacers shot 76.3% of the first half. Overall, they finished at 67.1%, both NBA records for a postseason game. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night in Boston. That was the largest comeback in a Game 7 in the last 25. That's where you can comment if you want to.
You can go.
Okay. Largest comeback in a Game 7 in the last 25 years in the NBA. Minnesota down by 20 in Denver. They take it. They'll see Dallas. Boy, we were talking about how New York was going to be not like quietly. Can we just say it might be Dallas with 2 teams in the finals?
Yeah, I was ready for. Actually, I was kind of banking and hoping for a Dallas Rangers and Knicks Mavericks, but I didn't think it would be the Mavericks in position for it over the Knicks.
No. So like Dallas, Minnesota. Boy, I didn't expect that last night.
That's a wild Western Conference matchup, especially the way that it went down for Denver.
Jokic, he went for 34 and 19 boards last night, but 13 of 28 from the field, and he was only 2 for 10 on 3-pointers. And then you had the coach of Michael Malone swearing. We can't play the audio.
I saw that. I did. Yeah. I heard it. My eyes were closed, and I heard him swear, and I was like, "What is going on in here?"
Yeah.
Like, what was it? A stupid question?
Yeah.
He swore in there.
So the reporter just says, "Does this hurt anymore knowing you were up by 20?" And the way he answers the question, he's indirectly saying, "Yeah," and then. Stupid bleeping question. Like,
I mean, don't lose a 20-point lead at home in a deciding game. It's not a stupid question. It's a stupid team.
It's
suck less.
Well, I wonder if that's kind of it for Denver. Like I'm thinking, all right, this is how the NBA is. Like you have teams that will go on this 2-3 year run. This is Jokic at his peak and Murray, good inside out. It's not like the Western Conferences are going to be any easier next year. You have Oklahoma City all year. You have Minnesota.
All these teams that are in contention are pretty cyclical. They get like 3-year windows. They get something done, but never as much as they want to, except for Golden State, who was not really anymore a dynasty, but they had a 7 or 8 year stretch where they were untouchable. But outside of that, like everything that happens in basketball seems to be like 2 or 3 great years in a row, and then just other teams coming out of nowhere, like Minnesota out of nowhere, Denver really out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Well, I'll ask you this question, too, because one of the offseason storylines, and to me, it's nothing more than it's not going to be germane to who wins the championship, but it's going to generate the most headlines. LeBron. Where's LeBron going to go? And remember, free agency's after the draft in the NBA. It's not like these other sports where our draft comes first. And so here we are, and whoever takes Bronny in the second round, Danger and I had 2 different. I'll ask you the question this way: like, who do you think would have the guts to say, "I'm drafting Bronny," and then we're going to pull out? LeBron will opt out, and then he'll go over there. Which team would it make sense? And actually, I said, you don't look at the GM, right? That doesn't feel like a GM move. That feels like an owner move, and I want to rub shoulders. I want to inject some life. And who would be the newish owner who cannot be happy that his team kind of flamed out? I'm looking at Phoenix. I think Phoenix, LeBron for them. Danger says Dallas, but I'm like, no, Cuban is kind of detached a little bit.
I don't know why I feel Dallas or San Antonio. I have no idea why, but 2 Texas teams. But San Antonio comes to mind because they've been really bad for a few years after being super good for 25 or so. Like they had Robinson, then Duncan, and now Wemby, but they're not good with Wemby. You bring in Bronny and LeBron, and at minimum, they're selling out the arena every night.
Well, but I don't know if Pop would kind of tolerate that. Like, what is the relationship?
They work together in USA basketball.
I guess so. That would just feel. I don't know if LeBron would engineer that, though, to go to a team that didn't have a chance to win a championship.
Who says they don't have a chance to win a championship with Wemby and Bron, though? LeBron James is title caliber. He just needs help.
I think Wemby is great, but I don't think this is the timeline. I think you're looking like 3-4 years.
I think he's got that in him still.
Okay, we got Alexander Schauffele going. It wasn't quite wire to wire. By the way, there is going to be an arraignment. So we did have the speculation. Yeah, we did have this speculation, Tim, that the charges would be dropped against Scottie Scheffler. His arraignment now is delayed until June 3rd. So that'll be a storyline.
2-week delay on something that probably should have never happened in the first place, I guess.
Yeah, everybody just kind of like, oh gosh. And the one report is that the officer did not have the camera on. If that's true, then that would hurt any prosecution's case, I suppose. Yu Darvish became only the 3rd Japanese-born pitcher to get to 200 career wins combined between MLB and Nippon Professional Baseball. Do you know the other two? Hideo Nomo, and you forget about Hiroki Kuroda. 9-1, the Padres won on Sunday night. Darvish has a scoreless streak of 25 innings, and then Padres won again today, 6-5 over the Braves. But again, like it used to be like Memorial Day was the time, like, okay, but to me now it feels like the All-Star break, just with the expanded playoffs. I'm like, I cannot put too much stock in any one of these teams getting hot or cold or whatever it might be. I just think there's more opportunity, and maybe that's the way baseball wants it all along. Speaking of baseball, you know what they want? They want us buying their gear.
Yeah.
So some hot uniform talk today as we wrap it up with the St. Louis Cardinals unveiling their City Connect uniforms. Now, I don't know where you come down on the City Connect stuff. I think some of it is just garbage because it doesn't connect to anything, like the Red Sox and the Phillies. But if you like it, you like it. Have the Guardians done this yet?
They just released theirs a week ago. I'm not from Cleveland, so it doesn't connect with me. I don't know how the city of Cleveland feels about it, but I looked at it and I was very underwhelmed. Like, I'm sure I'll grab a hat because I'm a hat guy, but I don't really care for them. I like the Tampa Bay ones that were released a week before that way more than the Cleveland ones.
I didn't quite get the Mets ones.
Yeah, that one was weird too. I don't get the color scheme on that. Is that like a Gotham look?
That's all it is. No,
boring.
And then I don't for the life of me, I can't figure out what the Philly thing is all about with the Liberty Bell. I get the Liberty Bell.
Yeah,
but the midnight.
I'm not sure, but the Red Sox one is Boston Marathon themed. So
yeah,
I get it. But
I understand that.
It's so far off of what they.
It's not anything to do with the brand,
right?
Well, this for the Cardinals does have things to do with the brand. Red is the color. The press release says that for the first time, the St. Louis Cardinals will be wearing red as a jersey color, which I'm like thinking, come on, that can't be right. But then maybe I'm thinking of spring training or something like that. The biggest difference here is what's written across the front. It doesn't say Cardinals. It doesn't say St. Louis. It still has the bat and the two birds. It just says in cursive, the Lou. The Lou, which you would think, was it the bathroom? Are they talking about Louisville? No. Apparently the Lou was the slang there for St. Louis was made popular by Nelly, who's from St. Louis. Who knew?
I really like those jerseys. I do not like the hat. I'm looking at it right now.
The hat is just a boring STL right across.
Block letters, boring. Like, I get it. I know what it stands for, but there's no pizzazz to it. The jerseys are nice. I like them.
Yeah, the jerseys I think you would wear. And
that's got to connect. Like, the Lou, people from the Lou know that it's the Lou. That connects. I get it.
Yeah.
I like those a lot. I do.
Did the Red Wings do like their version with the lilac?
Yeah, I think that's what that was.
I think that's what they
didn't call it that.
They didn't call it that.
Yeah, those were pretty cool too. I liked them.
Yeah, that was, but they're and gone. But then maybe that's what make it special because I don't know if they'll crack those out.
Probably auction them off and
something
do a different version of them yearly.
Yeah, I would think. Well, next time maybe you just go like actual lilac. Could you would that pop? They had a good crowd there yesterday.
I like those. I like those jerseys a lot. They released but it was in and out too. Like they released them, and then 3 days later they were wearing them. So
yeah,
I like it.
We have time for last call for your calls at 866-4FAN 866-4326. The Sports Bar on the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Last call here in the Sports Bar, 866-4326 if you would like to jump in. Full disclosure, well, Danger is out golfing today. I will not be here this hour tomorrow, and the reason for that, I got asked, and I consider it a privilege, get to call the championships, Section 5, for girls flag football.
That's awesome.
And if there is like one sport that I've seen kind of numbers year over year, it's not true in every sport, right? Especially coming out of the pandemic. That's been kind of a problem. Like so many kids got sidetracked, and then they just didn't pick up the sport. So the numbers everywhere, the varying degrees, maybe down a little bit. But here you have a sport that you have all these programs starting up. So tomorrow it's going to be Greece Athena against Batavia, and then also you get Gananda against Bishop Kearney. Tomorrow you get Penfield against Greece Arcadia. That'll be Wednesday. So this is all coming up the next 2 days. But if you're wondering, hey, where am I tomorrow in the 5 o'clock hour, I'll be calling those games at MCC. But some of the backstory here, too, like you just can't have a sport. You need some funding behind it, right? It's not like all of a sudden, ta-da, here you go, here's all this money. A lot of this funding coming from the National Football League. This is the Bills, the Jets, and the Giants, as I understand it, helping to launch these programs and working with NISFA, New York State High School Athletic Association, which, hey, that's smart. Like, honestly, like, hey, let's get more people involved. And even though this isn't football per se, sure as heck is fun to watch and call and everything. And the rules are a little different. They're not tackles. They're called pulls. You pull the flag, and there's a little bit of a difference there. But I'm just wondering, like, if my daughter had been this were available for her, and it's not, we're talking like years ago, but like you're going to see more girls playing.
Yeah, you get a track star on the football field, then you're good to go.
Yeah, we're good. So that
would have been a fun second sport for her.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
Yeah, it would have been absolutely fun. So, so that again, that's in any parent that's going to be going out there tomorrow. That's at MCC. For the doubleheader, and then on Wednesday, and then we get lacrosse coming up this weekend, and then into next week, and then that's it. We're all kind of wrapping it up. Mets and Guardians tonight.
Who you got?
Yeah. Look, dude. It used to be like I would make the bet with your old man all the time about this. With the Guardians at 30-17, I'm not taking that bet. Sorry.
That's okay.
In fact, I'd be giving you a head start here. So.
I'll have a beer with them for you.
Yeah, that would be fine there. Battle tonight also of the current and past farm teams. No, not the Orioles for the Red Wings. The Twins playing the Nationals down in D.C. How long do we have James Wood here for?
Oh, man.
What is he? What are you doing here?
He's a stud. He's so good.
Do we get one more home week with him? Like, if you are doing sports radio in D.C., you're like, what are we doing? They have one of them. They have a feeble offense. Somehow they're scratching together wins. They're not embarrassing the Nationals, but like, what point do they call the kid up?
That's awesome. He's off to such a good start. He seems like a really good guy too. I'm thinking after the All-Star break though, the Nationals are very protective of their assets, and they see what he's doing, and they want to hold on to him for as long as possible.
Yeah, or I hope they don't do like a Vlad Guerrero. Like, we're gonna make you wait the whole year.
Yeah.
And get to August, like, okay, why are
he's
you still
tearing
here?
it up. He's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Tomorrow on the show, we'll talk to Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, and get his thoughts. It's going to feel kind of football-ish tomorrow on the show because Bill's minicamp, I did it again, OTAs. I can't say minicamp because minicamp is mandatory. OTAs, not mandatory. So if there's a Bill tomorrow not at these practices, we can't get upset because, again, it's not mandatory. We'll talk to our buddy Matt and get his thoughts on what he's seeing out there. Is something I've learned, Tim, that all football players look great this time of year. Everybody's rested.
Everybody's excited.
Everybody's excited. Yep. Everybody looks great in the sunshine and in shorts, and it's just a good time to just kind of kick back and enjoy everything that we have here. So,
all good?
All good.
Let's have a day.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with